Chapter 249. Erwin's reminder came from good intentions, but he didn't know that the current new flyer was completely different from the new flyer from last year. When Sue came last year, the new flyer had just started, and even in Banta City, they were only a bit famous. As for Unveil City, no one had heard of them at all, so Sue had to personally talk to the magicians participating in the exam and invite them to work for the new flyer with the most sincere attitude. Even like this, Sue had met countless cold faces. However, after a year, the new flyer had created a stir in the magician circle of the Lampari Kingdom because of great magician Camilla joining. Because of this, their fame had increased and many magicians had rushed over. Sue even had to reject a portion of the magicians who wanted to work for the new flyer before because there were too many of them. Moreover, with the introduction of the magicians working for the new flyer, the other magicians all knew that the treatment given by the new flyer was very good. Moreover, working for the new flyer, because they were exposed to those new magic arrays all day and were required to learn how to set them up, it was actually very helpful for increasing one's magic power. So for many magicians, especially these low-grade magicians, working for the new flyer was already a very attractive choice. So Sue didn't need to take the initiative to look for them, these magicians had already come to his door. Erwin had just ended his conversation with Sue when some magicians who couldn't hold back came to find Sue. Whether it was asking in a roundabout way or directly asking, they all had the same meaning, which was that they were very willing to work for the Frestek Chamber of Commerce. Sue didn't immediately agree, but he welcomed them on behalf of the new flyer. Although most of the magicians present didn't have a chance of becoming a great magician, Sue needed the Lampari Kingdom's magicians to reach a consensus. That was that going to the new flyer to study magic machines was a very good choice, which was equal to giving these magicians a new path. After a simple meeting, since the exam had officially begun, Sue and Steele left and went their separate ways. Steele was going to attend the jewelry exhibition held by the Serene Chamber of Commerce as the representative, and Sue was going to Great Magician Eisenkel's Magic Tower. This was Sue's first time coming to Great Magician Eisenkel's Magic Tower. Compared to Great Magician Camilla's Magic Tower, this Great Magician Eisenkel's Magic Tower couldn't be described as a tower, rather it was just a name. This was because Grand Magus Eisenkel's Magus Tower was actually a manor that took up over 5,000 square meters of land in the southern suburbs of Unveil City. Apart from the Magus Tower in the center of the manor, there were all sorts of other buildings scattered all over the place, surrounding and protecting the Magus Tower. Just based on this, it could be seen that Great Magician Eisenkel really was worthy of being called the richest magician in the Lampari Kingdom. When Sue came, Great Magician Eisenkel immediately came out to greet him. He was even more enthusiastic than when he went to Banta City to see Sue. "Chairman Sue, it really is rare for you to come. Come, let me show you around. I think that you'll have many chances to come here in the future." Great Magician Eisenkel warmly led Sue in and showed him around the manor. Sue was a bit surprised by Great Magician Eisenkel's enthusiastic attitude because although they had agreed to cooperate last time, Sue didn't give him some of the new flyer's unique technology according to Great Magician Eisenkel's wishes, so the cooperation between them could only be considered shallow. New Flyer had given Great Magician Eisenkel some magic array research tasks to Great Magician Eisenkel's Magic Tower, so they had given Great Magician Eisenkel over 3,000 gold coins a year. But this bit of money was just a drop in the bucket for the current New Flyer, so it wasn't something that Great Magician Eisenkel cared about. So Sue thought that even if Great Magician Eisenkel invited him this time, it would just be a formality. He never thought that he would have this kind of attitude, it was like they were really close partners. "Look, Chairman Sue, this is the Magic Array Research Center that I specially set aside for our cooperation." While Sue was thinking about this question, Great Magician Eisenkel had already brought him to a courtyard that was made of 6 two-story buildings. Hearing Great Magician Eisenkel's introduction, Su-yi looked at the small courtyard in front of him. He felt that this small courtyard was a bit similar to the New Flyers Academy of Magic, but he didn't know if the research power here was as strong as the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce. Right now, there are 24th to 7th grade magicians researching magic arrays. Adding in the fact that I often come here to do some research, even if it's a bit lacking compared to your New Flyers Academy of Magic, it shouldn't be too far off. Great Magician Eisenkel said to Su-yi with a bit of pride. Su-yi secretly shook his head in his heart. Not to mention the large difference in the number of magicians here compared to the New Flyers Academy of Magic. Just the fact that Great Magician Camilla decided to focus on researching magic machines and Great Magician Eisenkel only came here occasionally was enough to pull the difference between the two to a very large degree. New Flyer and Great Magician Eisenkel's cooperation was in this area, so when they arrived here, Great Magician Eisenkel didn't bring Su-yi to any other place in the manor. He brought Su-yi around the small buildings to take a look before coming to the magic tower in the center of the manor. Taking a closer look, one would discover that this magic tower was 13 stories tall, almost double the height of Great Mage Camilla's 7 stories tall. Moreover, the ground floor area was more than double that of Great Mage Camilla's. This was enough to show the difference in wealth between the two great magicians. However, the two magic towers were roughly the same and the top floor was the private space of the two great magicians. After Great Magician Eisenkel led Su-yi to the top floor, he waved his hand for the other followers to leave. Then he personally poured a cup of tea for Su-yi before sitting down, looking like he was going to have a discussion with Su-yi. After a few words, Su-yi asked about the progress of the research. The initial cooperation between the two was with New Flyer providing the funds and Great Magician Eisenkel organizing the people to complete the research. The task that Su-yi gave Great Magician Eisenkel before was to stabilize the output of magic arrays as well as how to maintain the integrity of the magic arrays on the magic machines. After half a year of research, there had been a breakthrough in these two topics, and they had already reached Su-yi's requirement. However, after Great Magician Eisenkel introduced the current progress of these two topics, he said something that was worth thinking about. According to the original agreement, I can give these two research results to New Flyer, but I can also choose to pay the penalty and give these two technologies to other companies. Chairman Su, there are many companies that are interested in these two technologies and have promised to pay the penalty and buy them at a high price. Su-yi revealed a faint smile, thinking that he didn't know if Great Magician Eisenkel was reminding him or warning him. Of course, this is Your Excellency Great Magician's freedom. However, I think that since you took the initiative to cooperate with our New Flyer, you shouldn't be planning on breaking this cooperation, right? Otherwise, with your wealth, you wouldn't need us to pay for the research. That's right. Great Magician Eisenkel said with a nod. Compared to the other companies in the kingdom that aren't mature in terms of magic machine research, of course I hope to cooperate with New Flyer. So, Chairman Su, as long as you agree to my conditions, I think that not only will I give you these two research results, I will also continue to help you with your research. Su-yi didn't reveal a surprised expression. I ask Your Excellency Great Magician to state your conditions. According to my initial plan, both sides would share the developed technology. Then, as long as the Chamber of Commerce used these two technologies, they would have to pay the patent fees for these two technologies. However, whether it is the Kingdom or the Sorcerers Guild, they haven't passed the patent law yet, so after some consideration, I feel that it's better to use your company's previous method to deal with these two technologies. Great Magician Eisenkel said. Our company's method? Su-yi thought for a bit. Is it to directly sell the technology and then collect the corresponding fees? That's right. I feel that this method is very good. Right now these two technologies belong to us, so the profits from selling the technology also belong to both of us. What do you think, Chairman Su? Sui thought for a bit before asking. There are two questions. How should we calculate the proportion of our shares? Also, our new flyer's magic machines will also use these two technologies, so how should we calculate it? Because New Flyer is paying for these two technologies and I'm providing the manpower, I feel that 50-50 is a reasonable choice. As for the Frestec Chamber of Commerce using these two pieces of technology, Chairman Su, I think that your Frestec Chamber of Commerce will also need to spend money to buy these two pieces of technology, but we'll split it 50-50. In other words, if our new flyer wants to use these two technologies, we will still have to pay you the corresponding fees. Sui asked. Yes. Sui thought for a bit before shaking his head. I don't agree. If we sell these two technologies to other companies, then I agree with Your Excellency Great Magician's method of distribution. But if our new flyer uses these two technologies, then I hope that we won't be affected. Great Magician Eisenkel didn't think that Sui would reject him so directly, so he slightly knit his brows. Chairman Su, although your new flyer has invested in these two technologies, the magicians under me and I have also put in a lot of effort. If it's like you said and your new flyer doesn't need to pay any fees for using these two technologies, then we will lose a large amount of income. Do you think this is fair? This has nothing to do with fairness, I just don't want our company's magic machines to be restricted like this. Or to put it bluntly, I don't like it. Sui directly said. Great Magician Eisenkel knit his brows even tighter. Chairman Su, I hope that you won't let your personal preferences affect your judgment. As I said earlier, I can pay the liquidated damages to your Chamber of Commerce according to the agreement, and then take these two technologies as my own. If your company wants to use these two technologies in the future, you will have to buy them from me. Sui revealed a faint smile and relaxed his body. He leaned back in his chair and spread his hands, saying with a relaxed expression, If Your Excellency Great Magician has decided to do this, then please do so. Great Magician Eisenkel's expression changed slightly. Chapter 250. The discussion with Great Magician Eisenkel didn't reach a final result. Because whether it was Sui or Great Magician Eisenkel, they both insisted on their conditions, so the discussion reached a deadlock in the end. But of course the two wouldn't act like two children. Seeing that they couldn't reach an agreement for now, they put this topic to the side for now. This time Great Magician Eisenkel had invited Sui here. Other than to discuss the patent, there was also a very important discussion. It was that he hoped that New Flyer could set up a household magic machine factory outside Anvilmar City with him. Sui immediately agreed to this proposal, and after discussing it with Great Magician Eisenkel, they reached a preliminary agreement. According to this agreement, New Flyer and Great Magician Eisenkel would each provide 300,000 gold coins as startup capital for this household magic machine factory. Then New Flyer would provide a set of production equipment and the corresponding technical staff, while Great Magician Eisenkel would take care of the land and other procedures. Compared to the deadlock in terms of technology, this was a cooperation that both sides were happy with. Sui always wanted to find a chance to let New Flyer enter Anvilmar City, so even if he wasn't satisfied with Victor's group of three, he still wanted to cooperate with them. It was to keep a mark of New Flyer in Anvilmar City. Now that Great Magician Eisenkel wanted to cooperate with him to set up a factory here, of course he couldn't ask for more. For Great Magician Eisenkel, what he cared about was more direct, which was money. This household magic machine factory was split 50-50 according to the agreement. According to Great Magician Eisenkel's estimates of the household magic machines in Anvilmar City, once this factory was built, it would earn at least 500,000 gold coins a year. If it was 50%, that would be a large profit of 250,000 gold coins. Even for the richest great magician in the Lampari Kingdom, this was a large profit. Because of this cooperation, when Sui left in the end, Great Magician Eisenkel still had a warm smile on his face. But Sui could see that there was a trace of unwillingness that wasn't hidden in his eyes. Sui was very clear that the reason why Great Magician Eisenkel insisted on using technology and keeping control of the technology was because he knew that for New Flyer, the technology was the most important thing. Only with the technology could he truly meddle in the matters of New Flyer. New Flyer's prospects were very good, so if he could meddle, the benefits in the future would be unimaginably rich. But what Sui hated the most was having to look at other people's faces when it came to the most important thing to him, so he didn't give any room for negotiation at all. As for the threat in Great Magician Eisenkel's words, Sue's because he had Great Magician Eisenkel's. It was like Great Magician Eisenkel said, the only company worth mentioning in the magic machine industry was the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. Even if he sold these two technologies to other companies, they wouldn't be able to use them that well. So even if Great Magician Eisenkel's words were very firm, Sui knew that he didn't have a choice. Moreover, this was the first time the two sides were cooperating, so it could be considered a test between the two sides. Sui had to clearly express his attitude in this test, otherwise there would be no end of trouble. When he returned to the yard, he found that Steel and Great Magician Camilla hadn't returned yet. Sui simply laid down on the bed and planned to take this chance to rest. Although he had only been in Anvil City for a few days, he had been in contact with different people and negotiating with different people. Every time he came in contact and negotiated, there were many things that needed to be carefully considered. So, Sui had spent more effort than he imagined. Sui actually didn't like to do this kind of thing. Compared to negotiating, he preferred to put his energy into research. But right now, New Flyer didn't have anyone he could trust in this aspect, so he could only take care of it himself. Perhaps after a period of training, Kennard could take over a portion of the work, but because of his identity as a member of the Emma family, Sui still had some misgivings. Lying on the bed thinking, Sui unknowingly fell asleep after a while. Without knowing how long it had been, Sui was suddenly woken up by the sound of footsteps outside his room. When he opened his eyes, he heard the sound of hurried footsteps entering his room. Then he heard Hannah's loud laughter. "Hey, Sui, why are you sleeping in the middle of the day? Get up, it's rare for you to come to Anvil City, so I have to properly entertain you." Sui pinched his nose and rubbed his temples. He stood up to look at the excited Hannes and forced out a smile as he said, "I thought that you would come looking for me yesterday, why did you only come today? I thought that since you just came to Anvil City, you must have a lot of things to do, so I might as well give you a day to deal with them. If I came looking for you today, you would definitely have time. See, when I came, I heard Manager Ram say that you were sleeping. That's really strange. You couldn't have been sleeping in from morning until now, right?" Sui felt a bit dizzy from Hannes' rambling. He quickly shook his head and glared at him. "Do you think I have that much time to sleep in? I just came back not long ago and had nothing to do for now. Tell me, where are you going to treat me to lunch?" Hannes laughed. "Of course I'm here to treat you to lunch, but it's not me who's treating, rather it's someone else." "It's not you?" Sui was stunned. "Then why are you looking for me? Who is so important that they actually sent you here to run errands for them?" "You'll know when you get there." Hannes directly pulled Sui out of bed and pulled him out. Half an hour later, Sui was in the luxurious room of the best Duritz hotel in Anvil City. However, this master was completely out of Sui's expectations. Seeing this middle-aged man with a kind smile, Sui thought for a full 2 minutes before remembering. "Mr. Lewis, it's actually you." This master was actually the one who had suddenly asked Sui to order 1,000 magic fans from last year when Sui had just started selling magic fans with Heinz. That Reeves. Seeing that Sui recognized him, Lewis revealed a faint smile. "It seems like Chairman Su hasn't forgotten me. Then why have you come to Anvil City twice and never thought to see me? I've always wanted to see Chairman Su again. Su-yi revealed an awkward smile. He searched around his body and took out a thin piece of golden paper. It was the name letter that Reeves had given him before he left last year. Look, I've always had this letter with me, but I've been delayed by other matters when I came to Anvil City, so I didn't have a chance to visit. Su-yi explained. Lewis looked at the letter and nodded. I also know that Chairman Su is busy, but I'm already very satisfied that you have this kind of intention. Come, let's sit down and talk. Su-yi didn't immediately sit down, rather he looked at the other two people in the room. These two are. The two of them had already stood up with Lewis when Su-yi came in. When they saw Su-yi looking at them, the two of them revealed smiles at the same time. The shorter one of them took the initiative to reach his hand out to Su-yi. Hello Chairman Su, I am Anklo, from the Principality of Constantine. Principality of Constantine? Su-yi raised a brow, looking a bit surprised. The Principality of Constantine that borders the Black Rice Wasteland and is on the sea? Anklo laughed. Chairman Su actually understands the geography of the continent this well. That's right, it's the Principality of Constantine that is sandwiched between the beastmen of the Black Rice Wasteland and the Merciless Sea. Anklo's tone was full of self-mockery and helplessness. Apart from Su-yi, Lewis, Hannes, and the other person couldn't help revealing a distressed expression. The reason why they revealed such an expression was because Anklo's words were the truth. The Principality of Constantine's territory was very strange. It was like the South American country of Chile on Earth. The entire territory was long, with the Eternal Sea to the west and the Black Rice Wasteland to the north. The other territory formed a curved arc, hugging the Lampari Kingdom. The territory of this principality wasn't small, but because the west was facing the sea, there was no room for development. The east was next to the Lampari Kingdom, which was far more powerful than them. There was also no room for development. In addition, the only way out was blocked by the beastmen of the Black Rice Wasteland. As a result, they could only shrink into this piece of land, without any possibility of development. More importantly, the Eternal Sea's temper wasn't good. There was no telling when a hurricane or tsunami would occur. Even for the technologically advanced Earth, natural disasters like hurricanes and tsunamis were almost impossible to defend against, let alone the technologically backward signs. Therefore, almost half of the Principality of Constantine's territory could be attacked by hurricanes and tsunamis at any time. Because of all kinds of natural disasters, it was very difficult for the country to develop. Su-yi had always felt that the living standards of the Lampari Kingdom's commoners were too low, but compared to the majority of the commoners in the Principality of Constantine, it was much better. In the Principality of Constantine, it wasn't easy to survive the hurricanes and tsunamis every year. The introduction of the Principality of Constantine that he had read in some of Samoyed Count's books flashed through his mind. Even Su-yi couldn't help but show a trace of sympathy. But he immediately realized that this wasn't very polite and quickly turned his gaze to the other person. That person smiled at Su-yi and stretched out his hand. Just call me Newman. I'm not from the Lampari Kingdom, but from the Kingdom of Ruhr in the south. Hearing this self-introduction, Su-yi was surprised. It was reasonable for Reeves to treat him to a meal, but why did he invite two foreigners that he didn't know? Chapter 251. The meals of the Signs continent were a bit different from the meals of the imperial court on Earth. Before the meal was over, they definitely wouldn't discuss business. So after a round of toasting and eating to their fill, the dessert was brought over. Everyone sipped their tea before Lewis entered the main topic. Chairman Su, I had Hannes invite you to this meal today. The first reason is that the new flyer has developed very quickly over the past year, so I wanted to see Chairman Su again to see if you've changed compared to a year ago. The second reason is that these two friends of mine have something they want to ask Chairman Su for help with. Newman from the Kingdom of Ruhr immediately said with a nod and a smile, "That's right, I specially asked Lewis to see Chairman Su, otherwise I really wouldn't know how to see you. It's the same for me. I came from the duchy this time just to see Chairman Su." Anklo from the Principality of Constantine also said with a nod. Sui looked at Hannes with a strange gaze, but he saw him give a shrug, clearly not knowing if this meal was real or fake. So he turned around and looked over the two of them before saying with a faint smile, "The two of you are too polite. Only, is there anything I can help you with?" The two looked at each other before Newman spoke first. "It's like this, Chairman Su. I've heard that your Lampari Kingdom has been promoting the agricultural magic machines produced by your new flyer all over the country last year, and this year's harvest has been very good. The grain yield in the kingdom is much higher than before, is this true?" "I don't know the specific numbers, so it's hard to say if it's much higher or not, but my guess is that it should be around the same," Sui replied in an uncertain voice. Of course he was lying. Actually, not long after Banta City's fall harvest ended, he had already received this good news from Count Samo. According to the statistics from the Agriculture Department, in this year's fall harvest, the grain yield of the Lampari Kingdom was 3 times higher than before. Sui came to Anvilmar City this time for another important matter, which was to participate in the banquet the king was holding for this year's harvest. According to Seveni's spoiler, Sui was considered the greatest contributor to the Lampari Kingdom's harvest by the king, so he would be given a special reward at the banquet. Of course, there was no need to reveal this in front of these two foreigners. Before knowing the true goal of this place, of course he would choose to give a vague answer. Newman didn't care that much about Suyi's answer. It was clear that he already had some concrete information. "Chairman Su, I think that no one can deny that your company's agricultural magic machines have played a strong role, so I want to ask you now, does your new flyer have any plans of selling these agricultural magic machines to other countries?" Newman asked. Sui was surprised. "Mr. Newman, you mean, you want to buy agricultural magic machines?" Newman said with a nod, "Yes. Our Kingdom of Ruhr has more barren farmland than your Lampari Kingdom, so I feel that if we can buy enough agricultural magic machines from your company, our Kingdom of Ruhr's grain yield will greatly increase. Although from the perspective of a merchant, of course I hope that the more products my company sells, the better. But Mr. Newman, please forgive me for being blunt, but the agricultural magic machines have received the attention of our Lampari Kingdom's king, so I'm afraid I can't decide to sell them to you," Sui said in a helpless voice. Newman laughed. "I think that Chairman Su doesn't need to worry about this matter. Because since Mr. Lewis is willing to bring me to see you, your honorable king will definitely agree to this matter." "Is that so?" Sui looked at Lewis with a confused gaze. Did this Lewis have that much power? Lewis gave a slight nod to Sui. "Chairman Su, you don't need to worry about this. It would be strange if Sui wasn't worried. These agricultural magic machines could be considered a strategic resource of the Lampari Kingdom. In a normal situation, His Majesty wouldn't allow them to be exported to other countries. However, Lewis clearly wasn't willing to reveal anything, so Sui could only look at the silent Hannes on the side. Hannes immediately nodded to Sui. "Relax, since Uncle Lewis has already said this, you don't need to worry. This fellow isn't reliable," Sui muttered in his heart. He looked back at Newman and after thinking about it, he said, "Mr. Newman, as long as His Majesty agrees, I'm very happy to make this deal with you. But before this, I want to ask, how many agricultural magic machines are you planning to buy?" Newman raised a finger. "I'm planning to buy 10,000 of each kind of agricultural magic machine. If the effects are satisfactory, perhaps I'll place more orders in the future." 10,000 of each kind? Sui was surprised. Currently New Flyer was producing a total of 6 kinds of agricultural magic machines. If Newman bought 10,000 of each kind, with the current price, this order would add up to over 4 million gold coins. With New Flyer's terrifying profit margin on agricultural magic machines, just based on this order, New Flyer could earn a terrifying profit of close to 3 million gold coins. What? Chairman Su, is there a problem? Seeing Su Yi's expression change, Newman asked this. Su Yi took a sip of the tea on the table and worked hard to calm the excited emotions in his heart. After pausing for a bit, he said, Mr. Newman, I'm very curious about your identity. Newman and Lewis looked at each other before saying with a smile, It seems like Chairman Su is doubting whether I can pay for this order. Su Yi shook his head. No, since you were invited by Mr. Lewis, of course I won't doubt your ability to pay. I just feel that it's very strange. If Mr. Newman is a normal merchant, why would you want to buy all these agricultural magic machines? Even if you want to sell them in the Kingdom of Ruhr, I feel that because of the transportation problem, there won't be much profit to be gained. Newman suddenly broke out in laughter. Chairman Su, if I said that I wasn't doing this to earn money, would you believe me? Sui looked at him, clearly not believing him. All right, it seems like if I don't explain it clearly, it'll be hard to obtain Chairman Su's trust. My identity is publicly known as the chairman of the Kingdom of Ruhr's Rudsun Chamber of Commerce, but in reality, I'm a manager who does business for the royal family, just like Mr. Lewis. Now, Chairman Su, do you understand what I mean? Su Yi immediately noticed that Newman said that he had the same identity as Lewis. This also meant that Lewis was actually a comprador of the Lampari Kingdom's royal family? It was no wonder Lewis and Hannes told Su Yi that he didn't need to worry that the king wouldn't agree to him selling the agricultural magic machines. Perhaps today's meeting was arranged by Lewis at the king's behest. Su Yi couldn't help shaking his head. Since it was like this, why didn't anyone tell him ahead of time and let him prepare his heart ahead of time? Chairman Su, if it wasn't necessary, I didn't want to reveal my identity, so I ask for your forgiveness. Lewis gave a slight bow to Su Yi as he spoke in an apologetic voice. Su Yi quickly waved his hand. No, Mr. Lewis, you don't need to apologize. But since I know your and Mr. Newman's identities, it's much easier to talk about. All right, I can accept this order on behalf of New Flyer. Newman immediately picked up a bottle of wine and filled Su Yi's and his own glasses before the two of them clinked glasses. Chairman Su, I hope that we can have a happy cooperation. After Newman and Su Yi reached an agreement, it was naturally Anklo's turn next. Su Yi wiped the wine from the corner of his mouth and looked at Anklo to ask, Mr. Anklo, are you the same as Mr. Newman? Are you interested in our company's agricultural magic machines? Anklo shook his head. No, I'm different from him. He's here to buy things and I'm here to sell things. Sell things? Su Yi was surprised. What do you have to sell to me? Chairman Su, you should ask what our Principality of Constantine wants to sell to you. Hearing the meaning in Anklo's words, Su Yi's heart skipped a beat before he quickly asked, Then Mr. Anklo, what does your Principality of Constantine want to sell to me? Anklo revealed a faint smile. I've heard that Chairman Su has always been interested in buying mines, so how about we sell you 2 iron mines and 1 copper mine first? 2 iron mines? 1 copper mine? Su Yi looked at Anklo in disbelief. Mr. Anklo, you wouldn't be joking, right? Of course I'm not joking. Anklo shook his head. Chairman Su, I specially asked Mr. Lewis to meet you this time. It wasn't to joke with you. How about it? I represent Duke Stantine to invite your new flyer to our Principality of Constantine to mine the 2 iron mines and 1 copper mine that the Duke personally chose. What do you think? Su Yi swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty. Mr. Anklo, is this really Duke Stantine's idea? I can understand the 2 iron mines, but why did Duke Stantine choose to sell us the copper mine? It's very simple, it's no use leaving it there. so the Duke decided to use it to exchange for some things that we need. Anklo replied. Sui could hear the hidden meaning in Anklo's words. So you're saying, Duke Stantine doesn't want me to pay with gold coins? I just don't know what the Duke wants. Chairman Su, let's not discuss these things here, right? Anklo's gaze swept over Lewis, Newman, and Hannes as he asked Sui, I just want to ask Chairman Su, now that the Duke wants to sell, do you want to buy? Sui sat up straight and his expression became serious as he slowly nodded. Yes, I want to buy very much. Chapter 252. When Steele finished the Serene Chamber of Commerce's lunch and returned to the courtyard, she found Sui lying on the table, seriously studying a map. What are you doing? Steele asked curiously. Ah, you're back? Sui raised his head and pointed at the map. I'm studying the terrain of the Principality of Constantine. The Principality of Constantine? Still tilted her head to think for a bit. She remembered that she had learned some knowledge about this duchy beside the Lampuri kingdom in the continent's political science course she had studied at school. Oh, it's that principality in the cracks. Why are you suddenly studying its terrain? Because I might have to take a trip there after a while, so I'll study it first to prepare myself. Sui replied. You want to go to the Principality of Constantine? Steele was even more surprised. Why? Sui gave Steele a general overview of the situation at the lunch table. Steele listened and thought for a while. The first question she was concerned about was completely out of Sui's expectations. Well, the people of the Principality of Constantine are really pitiful. I heard from my teacher that the average lifespan of the people of the Principality of Constantine is less than 40 years old. It's much worse than the Lampari kingdom. Now they even want to sell the copper mines in the Principality. It seems that Duke Stantine really can't hold on. Sui's expression was a bit strange. I say, Steele, hearing you say that, why do I feel like I'm a shameful invader? Steele pursed her lips and smiled. If it were other merchants, they would definitely be taking advantage of the situation. But a good person like Sui wouldn't, am I right? Don't give me the good guy card. Sui couldn't help but mutter. He touched his nose and said seriously, It's wrong to say that I definitely won't take advantage of people when they are in trouble. In fact, according to Anklo, the Principality of Constantine had always been in danger. I would be taking advantage of the situation whenever I went there. But this time, he took the initiative to come to me, so it can't be said that I'm ashamed. I can only say that everyone can take what they need. And what does the Principality of Constantine want from you? Steele asked curiously. I haven't discussed this with Anklo yet, but Anklo said that they don't need gold coins, so it should be something that is hard to buy with gold coins. I'm guessing that it should be some technology. Sui said. Technology? Steele was surprised. What technology do they need from you? Even if he gave them the magic machine technology, they wouldn't be able to use it. I feel that they should be like the Kingdom of Ruhr and buy some agricultural magic machines to let their people fill their stomach. No, they don't need the agricultural magic machines right now. Sui shook his head and pointed at the Principality of Constantine on the map. Look, the Principality of Constantine is different from the other countries on the continent. Most of their land is by the sea and they are often attacked by hurricanes and tsunamis, so the grain yield in this half of their land is very unstable. Because there might be a hurricane or tsunami at any time, it could wipe out a year's harvest. Steele looked at the map for a while before giving a slight nod, as a look of sympathy appeared on her face. The people of this duchy really are pitiful, they can't even properly farm. It's a good thing they can rely on fishing for a living, otherwise I really don't know how they could survive. Sui revealed a faint smile. Actually, although most of their land is by the sea and they are often attacked by hurricanes and tsunamis, it also gives them a natural giant advantage. Only they haven't discovered and used it yet. Natural giant advantage? Steele looked at the map in confusion for a while, but she didn't notice anything. Where is the advantage? The long coastline is their giant advantage, Sui replied. Of course, not to mention the Principality of Constantine, even the signs don't realize the importance of this. What advantage is the coastline? Steele was even more confused. It's still too early to say this, but as long as we develop the engine, we can use this advantage. Seeing the mysterious smile on Suyi's face, Steele couldn't help rolling her eyes at him. According to her understanding of Sui clearly had a long-term plan, but because he wasn't completely certain right now, no matter how she asked, Sui wouldn't give a clear answer. Steele didn't plan on asking questions like a normal girl. After being with Sui for a long time, she would often encounter this kind of situation. If she asked questions every time, it would definitely make Sui feel disgusted. Steele was a smart girl, of course she wouldn't do something this stupid. The two of them changed the topic and talked about the Kingdom of Ruhr for a bit. Great Magician Camilla had finished attending the Sorcerers' Guild's banquet and returned to the yard. Seeing that Sui was also here, Great Magician Camilla asked him without any courtesy, "Hey, brat, you'll be participating in the exam tomorrow, are you prepared?" Sui gave a shrug and replied with a relaxed look, "What is there to prepare? It's fine as long as you show your strength." Great Magician Camilla glared at him, but Sui came over with a mischievous smile and mysteriously asked, "Your Excellency Great Magician, since you're in charge of tomorrow's exam, can you give me some questions ahead of time?" Great Magician Camilla naturally knew that Sui was joking, but he couldn't help angrily glaring at him. He angrily waved his hand, "Scram?" After pausing for a bit, he added, "The high-level magician exam only has an extra high-level magic exam compared to the low-level magician exam. There isn't any other difference, so you don't need to worry." High-level magic. Sui couldn't help knitting his brows. The so-called high-level magic was referring to the high-level variations of the four main elements: wind, water, fire, and earth. For example, the high-level wind magic was thunder magic, and the high-level water magic was ice magic. Properly speaking, once a magician reached the 6th grade, they would begin to grasp some high-level magic. However, Sui felt that high-level magic didn't have much meaning in studying magic machines, so he rarely studied them. Although he should be a 7th-grade magician based on normal magic power, his grasp of high-level magic was very weak. To put it simply, his research in magic was a little biased. His attainments in magic formations were not much weaker than those of 8th tier or even 9th tier magic casters, but his research in lethal magic was at best comparable to that of 6th tier magic casters. Seeing Suyi's expression, Great Magician Camilla and Steele were a bit surprised. Steele immediately asked, "It can't be that you can't grasp high-level magic, right?" Sui revealed an awkward smile. It's indeed not that good. Alright, strictly speaking, I still haven't grasped a single high-level magic spell. Great Magician Camilla and Steele's eyes popped out. Great Magician Camilla angrily said, "Brat, you're telling me you have the strength of a 7th-grade magician? You can't be considered a 7th-grade magician if you don't know high-level magic." Steele slightly knit her brows and said in a worried voice, "Grandfather is right. If you don't know high-level magic, the Sorcerers' Guild wouldn't recognize you as a high-level magician. Not to mention a 7th-grade magician, even a 6th-grade magician wouldn't let you pass. This stinky brat, I already told him to spend more time on magic research, but he wouldn't listen." Great Magician Camilla angrily said, "What do we do now? If you participate in the high-level magician exam and tell others that you don't know a single high-level magic spell? That would simply be a giant joke." Sui didn't react as intensely as the two of them. His expression was still relaxed as he said with a smile, "This isn't much, right? If I can't pass, I'll just take the exam next year. I'll properly study high-level magic this year, and I'll definitely meet the requirement. That's easy for you to say. Great Magician Camilla's saliva almost landed on Su Yi's face. Brat, during lunch today, I praised you for half a day in front of everyone. I said that with your talent, you would definitely pass the exam tomorrow. Now you're telling me that you're planning on giving up? You're not afraid of losing face, but I'm afraid of losing face. Let me tell you, if you back out this time, do you believe that I'll have Steel never associate with you again? Ah! Su Yi and Steel were stunned at the same time. Steel immediately stomped her foot. Grandfather, what nonsense are you saying? What does this have to do with us being together? Humph. In short, I'm saying this. Brat, what do you plan on doing? Su Yi knit his brows and helplessly said, but even if I don't back out and participate in the exam, I really don't know a single high-level magic spell, so I still can't pass the exam. You really don't know a single one? Great Magician Camilla's expression was a bit ugly. Brat, I know that threatening you is useless, but do you know that your performance in the exam this time is very likely related to the guild's attitude towards magic machines? If you perform well, then the patent bill that the union is about to pass may be closer to your expectations in terms of the specific terms. But if your performance is too bad, even if this patent bill passes, I'm afraid it won't be as good as you think. Su Yi was stunned. Your Excellency Great Magician, why didn't you say so earlier? If I knew that this matter was this serious, I would have properly studied high-level magic. Great Magician Camilla glared at him and angrily said, How could I know that you haven't studied high-level magic? Hearing Great Magician Camilla's words, Steel was also a bit anxious. Su Yi had mentioned to her many times how important an official patent law would be to the development of the magic machine industry, so he had always hoped that the Sorcerers' Guild could pass a perfect patent law. Now that Great Magician Camilla had said that Su Yi's performance in the exam would affect the patent law, this was very important to Su Yi. Grandfather, can't you think of a way? Why don't you guide him now and see if he can master an advanced spell by today? Great Magician Camilla looked at Steel and said with a cold snort, With this brat's talent, it isn't impossible. But do you think that with just a single afternoon and night, even if he learns a high-level magic spell, can he really grasp it well? When it comes to the exam tomorrow, it will be even more embarrassing. Steel was already a 5th-grade magician and was beginning to touch high-level magic, so of course she knew that Great Magician Camilla was completely right. Then what do we do? Steel anxiously said. Seeing the deeply knitted brows of Great Magician Camilla and the worried Steel, Su Yi's mind quickly turned. Actually, he wasn't that worried. Even if the patent law passed by the Sorcerers' Guild wasn't perfect, with the development of the magic machine industry, the Sorcerers' Guild would realize the importance of the patent law sooner or later. Then it would be perfected according to Su Yi's expectations. Moreover, Su Yi could use the new flyer's special position in the industry to set some rules, so he didn't rely too much on the patent law. But since Great Magician Camilla and Steel were this worried about him, he couldn't act like he didn't care and had to work hard. Countless thoughts passed through his mind and suddenly, an idea flashed in Su Yi's mind. Su Yi revealed a confident smile to Great Magician Camilla and Steel. I remember now, I've already grasped a high-level magic spell, and I've grasped it very well. Chapter 253. Perhaps it was because this year's Magicians' Guild certification exam had been delayed by a month, but after the most popular primary and second-level magician exams had ended, the Magicians' Guild announced that the 3rd to 5th level magician exams would be held in 2 days. Apart from the 3rd-rank magicians who would take the exam today, the remaining 4th and 5th-rank magicians could take the exam at any time. Thus, Su Yi and Steel arrived at the Sheldon Inn early in the morning and met up with the researchers of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce. The Academy of Magic's magicians ranged from 3rd to 7th rank, but there was only one 7th-rank magician, 3 6th-rank magicians, and 8 5th-rank magicians. These researchers would go with Su Yi to take the high-level magician exam. The remaining 37 researchers were all 3rd and 4th-rank magicians and would go with Steele to take the low-level magician exam. When the total of 49 researchers, Su Yi and Steele, gathered together, they immediately attracted everyone's attention. This was because these 51 people were all wearing the same magic robe. Moreover, on the chest area of the magic robes, there was a half-wing emblem. With one look, one could tell that these magicians were from the same organization. Although a large number of magicians had entered Anvil City because of the Sorcerers Guild certification exam, this was the first time so many magicians were wearing the same uniform. The group of people had just walked out of the Sheldon Inn's entrance and immediately attracted the attention of everyone outside the inn. People who didn't recognize the emblem on their chest couldn't help but point at them and guess. Hey, look, that group of magicians should all be from the same place, right? Look at them, they shouldn't be from a cult, right? Cult my ass. Since when did our Lampari kingdom have a cult? And it's a cult formed by a group of magicians? I think you should go see a doctor and see if there's something wrong with your brain. If I had to guess, they should all be under the same great magician, because only a great magician would have so many magicians under him. At this time, the people who recognized the emblem looked at the people from before with eyes of disdain and began to educate them. 2 ignorant fellows. Do you know what the emblem on their chest is? Let me tell you, that doesn't represent a great magician or some damn cult, it's actually the emblem of the New Flyer. Do you know the New Flyer? It sells those strange household magic machines. Let me tell you, I bought a magic bread maker a while ago and it's very easy to use. After recognizing the New Flyer emblem, the crowd was even more surprised. Although there were many companies that hired magicians, it was rare to see a company like the Frestec Chamber of Commerce that hired a large group of magicians at once. Just based on the number of magicians they hired, just based on the 50 magicians New Flyer had including Su Yi and Steele, it was enough to be considered a first-class company in the Lampari Kingdom. Some of the more knowledgeable people also noticed the magic robes that everyone was wearing. They discovered that although they were all wearing the same style magic robes, the materials used to make the magic robes were of high quality. They were tailored to fit the body, and the workmanship was exquisite. It was obvious that they were made by a famous tailor. Not mentioning anything else, just these magic robes were worth quite a bit. It could be seen that this New Flyer was spending quite a bit. Just giving each magician under them a set of magic robes wasn't cheap. Not to mention that they had just come out of the Sheldon Inn, so it could be seen that these magicians had been living in the Sheldon Inn during this time. Thinking of the high price of the Sheldon Inn, everyone guessed that these magicians wouldn't be paying for their accommodations, but rather New Flyer. If it was like this, the treatment that New Flyer gave these magicians really was a bit too good. Moreover, this wasn't all. The group of magicians waited at the entrance of the Sheldon Inn for a while before 10 horse carriages pulled by 2 white horses slowly came out of the street and stopped in front of everyone. Seeing these magicians step into the horse carriages, the crowd was even more shocked. Just based on the fact that the white horses pulling the carriages didn't have any other colors, one could tell that these horse carriages were very luxurious. Then looking at the beautiful decorations and the Fersen Carriage Company's logo on the carriages, everyone could tell that these 10 horse carriages were the Fersen Carriage Company's most precious Duke-grade horse carriages. A single Duke-grade horse carriage cost 50 gold coins a day, but this New Flyer actually rented 10 of them at once. After calculating that these 10 horse carriages cost 500 gold coins, everyone could only watch with incomparably envious gazes as the 10 horse carriages quickly left the city for the Sorcerers Guild's exam venue. Ha ha, look, those people must be dying of envy. In the first horse carriage, Akali pointed at the people on the street with an excited look on her face. Bella on the side was even more excited than her. She looked up at the beautiful painting on the ceiling and touched the soft leather seat under her butt. Then she pulled open the secret compartment under the seat and found that there were several bottles of red wine and grape wine inside. She couldn't help saying in a shocked voice, "God, this is the most luxurious horse carriage I've ever ridden in my life. Sir Chairman, I really love you to death." Claire on the side looked at her. "Hey, Bella, be careful. Steele is here, and if you say this in front of her, be careful that Steele isn't happy." Steele revealed a faint smile. "What am I not happy about? Don't I understand Bella? She likes to talk nonsense when she's too excited." Bella rolled her eyes and moved closer to Steele. She smiled and asked Steele, "Steele, what if I'm not talking nonsense and I really fall in love with Sir Chairman?" Steele shrugged. "If you fall in love with him, then so be it. I can't do anything about it. Anyway, it's fine as long as Sue-E doesn't love you." "Humph, how do you know that Sir Chairman doesn't love me?" Bella was not convinced and turned to Sue-E. "Sir Chairman, I'm going to confess to you now. I'm in love with you. Do you love me?" Sue-E didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He shook his head. "All right, stop fooling around. The exam is about to start. Aren't you guys nervous?" "What's there to be nervous about?" Bella looked frustrated as she sat back in her seat. Compared to being rejected by Sir Chairman, failing the exam is nothing. "Sigh, Sir Chairman, when will you change your mind? If you don't want Steele anymore, you have to remember that I've always been waiting for you." Sue-E rolled his eyes and said, "All right, if it wasn't for the advertising effect, I wouldn't have rented such an expensive carriage. Since we haven't reached the exam site yet, you should seize the opportunity to enjoy yourself. I won't waste money like this in the future." Bella smiled and rummaged through the secret compartment for a while. She didn't dare to drink because the exam was about to start. She could only take out a cup of phoenix tail nectar and sip it. "Sir Chairman, you said advertising effect just now. Is it all for the sake of letting us stay at the Sheldon Inn, making us these magic robes, and renting these luxurious carriages?" Claire asked curiously. "Not all of it. Letting you stay at the Sheldon Inn is purely for the sake of letting you have a good rest during this period of time, so that you can be in better condition for the exam," Sue-E answered. "As for the magic robes, they are half and half. You see, with our new flyer badge, this is a very good advertising effect. But if you take off the badge, you can still wear this magic robe, right? Yes, this robe is very beautiful, and the material is also very good. I like it very much." Akali picked up the magic robe and looked left and right. She was very satisfied. "Sir Chairman, do you mean that you will give this robe to us in the future?" "Of course, why would I keep it if I don't give it to you?" Hearing Sue-Yi's answer, Akali, Claire, and Bella all cheered and high-fived each other at the same time. They had already asked about the price of this magic robe, and each one was no less than 10 gold coins. For magicians like them who came from ordinary families, such expensive robes were something that they couldn't bear to buy in the past. Now that Sue-Yi said that he would give this magic robe to them, of course they were very happy. Claire couldn't help but wink at Sue-Yi. "Sir Chairman, you are really a good person. If you don't like Bella, you can choose me. Even if you love Steele at the same time, it doesn't matter. I don't mind." Steele rolled her eyes at her. "Claire, are you going to mess around with Bella too?" Claire giggled. "I'm telling the truth. Sir Chairman is so young, handsome, rich, and generous. Who wouldn't like him? Don't you think so, Akali?" Akali's reaction was a bit strange. She stared at Sue-Yi for a while in a daze, and the smile on her face gradually disappeared and her expression became a bit stiff. Seeing her reaction, Claire and Bella, who were still laughing, quieted down at the same time. Together with Steele, they looked at Akali in surprise. Bella was about to say something, but Claire pulled her back, stopping her from asking any questions. The two small movements made the atmosphere in the carriage even more awkward. Steele's eyes moved between Akali's and Sue-Yi's faces, and her expression also became strange. She originally wanted to ask, but after thinking about it, she could only swallow the question back into her stomach. The noisy carriage instantly turned into a deathly silence. All that could be heard was the sound of the horses' hooves and the squeaking of the carriage's wheels as they rolled over the dirt. Chapter 254. It was a good thing that the Sorcerers' Guild's examination area wasn't far from Anvil City, so the awkward atmosphere didn't last for too long. When the 10 carriages stopped outside the examination area, the new flyer magicians wearing the same style of magic robes jumped down from the carriages. All the magicians waiting for the examination to begin shifted their gazes over. As magicians, they were naturally more informed than normal people. Moreover, just yesterday, the Anvilmer Times reported that the new flyer had arranged for all the magicians in the Chamber of Commerce to participate in the examination. Therefore, when they saw this scene, the magicians outside the examination area were only a bit surprised. It didn't take long for them to react. However, when they saw the 10 luxurious carriages and the magic robes the new flyer magicians wore, most of the magicians couldn't help but reveal a trace of envy in their eyes. Seeing the gazes of the surrounding magicians, Su-Yi smiled with satisfaction. Although he had spent quite a bit of money on this advertisement, as long as it had a sufficient effect, it was worth it. Su-Yi gathered everyone and was about to say a few words of encouragement and wish them success in passing the examination when he suddenly heard a strange voice from the side. "Oh, I was wondering who had so much money that they had nowhere to spend it." So it was Chairman Su. "No wonder, no wonder. Only you would pretend to be fat after slapping yourself until your face was swollen." Everyone turned around and Su-Yi looked at the person who walked out from the crowd. He smiled and said, "So it was Mr. Aaron. What's the matter? Are you here to participate in the 5th rank examination?" Aaron's expression froze. After a while, he dryly said, "No, I'm here to participate in the 4th rank examination." Su-Yi couldn't help finding this funny. Although this fellow had a strange hostility towards him last year and was even injured after being taught a lesson by him, so he definitely hated him now. But in the end, he was still a child who had just become an adult, so he actually honestly answered this question. Of course, Su-Yi wouldn't ignore what he said just because he was still young. He deliberately showed a surprised expression and said, "Oh? I thought that since you were so confident last year, you must have passed the level 4 exam. I didn't expect that you actually failed. What a pity." Aaron's face alternated between green and white. After his expression changed several times, he glared fiercely at Su-Yi. "I'm warning you, don't be arrogant in front of me. Be careful that I won't let you pass the review this year." Su-Yi spread out his hands and smiled. "Young Master Allen, that's what you said last year, but it doesn't seem like you did. As for this year, I'm sorry, but this year I'm participating in the 7th level magician exam, and you're participating in the 4th level magician exam. We don't even seem to be in the same exam room. Even if you want to deliberately stop me like last year, I'm afraid you won't have the chance." Hearing Su-Yi's words, the surrounding mages finally understood what was going on. However, everyone still felt that it was strange. Logically speaking, with Su-Yi and Aaron's status, the two of them shouldn't be together. Why was there such a huge conflict between them last year, to the point that Aaron's expression looked like he wanted to eat Su-Yi? Of course, one thing was clear. In the conflict between the two, the one who suffered was definitely Aaron. Thinking about how Aaron was the only son of the Sorcerers Guild's president, Palms Aaron, everyone looked at Su-Yi with even more strange gazes. Even if the new flyer was very famous now, in terms of status, Su-Yi, as the president of the new flyer, was still far from the Sorcerers Guild's president, Palms Aaron. Moreover, at this time last year, the new flyer didn't have any fame to speak of in Anvil City. Then last year, When Su-yi and Ankh-Aaron had a conflict, how did he survive Palms-Aaron's anger? After hearing Su-yi's words, Ankh-Aaron angrily clenched his fists. After being injured by Su-yi last year, he thought that his father would definitely avenge him. Who knew that his father didn't do anything after that? Later on, when he raised his objections, he was fiercely taught a lesson by his father. At that time, he knew that Su-yi wasn't as simple as he looked, so he helplessly gave up on the idea of seeking revenge on Su-yi. But today, when he suddenly saw Su-yi here, he couldn't help but jump out. Even if he couldn't do anything to Su-yi because of his father's special warning last night, he could still take advantage of him by ridiculing him. Who knew that in terms of words, he was even less of a match for Su-yi. Now that he heard Su-yi's words, he couldn't refute at all. Because what Su-yi said wasn't wrong at all. Su-yi was participating in the 7th level magician examination, while he could only participate in the 4th level magician examination. The high-level magician examination and the low-level magician examination were separated. He didn't even have the chance to teach Su-yi a lesson like last year. Thinking of this, Ankh-Aaron suddenly noticed a shocking fact. He pointed at Su-yi in astonishment and shouted, "You just said, you want to participate in the 7th level magician examination? You must be lying. Last year, you barely passed the 5th level magician examination. How can you have the ability to participate in the 7th level magician examination this year? This is simply impossible." Hearing Ankh-Aaron's question, the surrounding magicians also looked at Su-yi in astonishment. At this time, many magicians remembered that last year, Su-yi had directly become a 5th level magician when he first participated in the Sorcerer's Guild examination. At that time, it had caused a sensation in the magician's circle of the Lampari Kingdom. But last year, he was only a 5th level magician. This year, he actually dared to participate in the 7th level magician examination? If he wasn't overestimating himself, then wasn't the speed at which he advanced from a 5th level magician to a 7th level magician too terrifying? Su-yi didn't really care about his personal strength. Thus, even though he knew that this was an excellent opportunity to show off, he only casually smiled and said to Ankh-Aaron, "This question isn't something you need to worry about. All right, the examination is about to begin. I won't chat with you anymore." After saying this, Su-yi turned around and no longer paid attention to Ankh-Aaron. He began to motivate the researchers of the new flyer before the examination. Ankh-Aaron originally wanted to mock Su-yi, but when he saw Su-yi being surrounded by a group of magicians wearing similar robes, he seemed to have thought of something. His gaze swept past the badges on the chest of the group of magicians. The corner of his mouth rose, revealing a trace of complacency and a cruel smile. After waiting outside the examination hall for a while, the staff of the Sorcerer's Guild finally announced that the examination had officially begun. Thus, the magicians outside the examination hall were divided into 2 groups, each of them walking towards a different examination hall. Su-yi waved his hand at the researchers participating in the low-level magician examination. Then, he waved his fist at the leader's steel and revealed an encouraging smile. Only then did he enter the examination hall with the other 12 researchers participating in the high-level magician examination. After entering the examination hall, he discovered that the number of magicians in the examination hall was even less than the number of magicians Su-yi had participated in the 5th level magician examination last year. However, this was a normal phenomenon. The higher a magician's level, the harder it was to advance. Currently, there were about 10,000 magicians in the Lampari Kingdom. The number of 4th level magicians that had been certified by the Sorcerer's Guild was less than 500. Every year, less than half of them felt that their strength was enough to advance to the 5th level and participate in the examination. There were also less than 500 magicians like Su-yi who had the strength of a 5th level magician or higher. However, due to the difficulty of advancing their strength, The number of magicians who felt that their strength was enough to advance to the 5th level was even fewer. In fact, the 12 high-level magicians of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce weren't certain that their strength was enough to advance to the 5th level. The main reason they came to participate in the examination this time was that the new flyer had provided them with transportation, accommodation, and even subsidies. Otherwise, there would not be more than 5 people who came with the idea of testing their strength. So Sui looked around the examination hall and found that, including himself, there were only 40-50 high-level magicians participating in the examination. No wonder the Sorcerers' Guild would put all the high-level magicians together. If there were only this few people, Sui even felt that it was a waste to have 5 great magicians present at the same time. Thinking of the great magicians, Sui raised his head and saw the 5 great magicians sitting in front of the examination hall. Great Magician Camilla was sitting in the 2nd seat from the left. When he saw Sui look over, he gave a slight nod to Sui. Sitting in the 1st seat to his left was Great Magician Eisenkel. Compared to Great Magician Camilla, his attitude towards Sui was a bit more friendly. However, compared to when the two of them were discussing, he was much more restrained and only revealed a gentle smile. After all, he had the identity of an examiner, so it wasn't appropriate for him to be this close to Sui. Sui had never seen the 2 great magicians on the right before, but Sui recognized the great magician sitting in the middle. It was the chairman of the Sorcerers' Guild last year, Palms Aaron. When Sui looked at him, he was also looking at Sui. Their gazes met and Palms Aaron narrowed his eyes and gave a slight nod. Sui returned a faint smile, but he was wondering if he already knew that Aaron had provoked him outside. If he knew that his son was this stupid, then this Sir Chairman wouldn't feel good. Chapter 255. Perhaps it was because this was the first time that the Sorcerers' Guild branch in the kingdom was responsible for the examination, but before the examination began, the Lampari Kingdom Sorcerers' Guild held a small ceremony. During the ceremony, not only did they read the signed Sorcerers' Guild's decision on this change, they also read out the specific rules of the examination. From President Palms Aaron's reading, Sui heard a noteworthy issue. Because not every country in the signs had a great magus, the Sorcerers' Guild reassigned the countries that didn't have a great magus. The great magi of these countries who wanted to participate in the examination would be sent to the nearest country with a great magus to take the examination. Because the Principality of Constantine didn't have a great magus, and because the Principality of Constantine was the closest to the Lampari Kingdom, the Principality of Constantine and 2 other small duchies bordering the Lampari Kingdom were given to the Lampari Kingdom. Hearing President Aaron's announcement, Sui couldn't help but size up the various great magi participating in the examination. He wanted to find the great magi from the Principality of Constantine who had come to participate in the examination. However, the great magi all looked the same, and Sui had no way of distinguishing them based on their appearance. At the end of the ceremony, President Aaron introduced the other 4 great magi to everyone, and told everyone that today they would have the honor of taking the examination of all 5 great magi in the Lampari Kingdom. This is a rare honor, because from next year onwards, the Guild will only request 1 great magus to supervise the examination, so you won't have the opportunity to display your strength in front of all 5 great magi. You must seize this opportunity and properly display your talent and ability, understood? President Aaron asked loudly. The great magi all shouted excitedly in unison, "Understood!" Sui was a little frightened by their passion and excitement, because in his opinion, great magicians were not that rare. Therefore, he couldn't understand. To other magicians, great magicians were their goals and targets of worship. To be able to show off in front of 5 great magicians at the same time was indeed a rare honor. After the ceremony ended, President Aaron did not waste any time and immediately announced the start of the test. In short, the high-grade magician exam was just like Great Magician Camilla said before. The process and content of the exam were no different from the low-grade magician exam. In the beginning, they were also given a written test to test their theoretical knowledge of magic. This was naturally not difficult for Sue. What was difficult and what Great Magician Camilla was worried about was the high-grade magic demonstration after the written test. Seeing the magicians in front of him display their high-grade magic, Sue was a little uncertain. Although the method he thought of to replace high-grade magic was quite good and had obtained Great Magician Camilla's approval, it wasn't a true high-grade magic. Perhaps the other 4 great magicians would find out and he wouldn't be able to obtain their approval. Very quickly, the magicians in front of Sue finished their demonstrations and it was Sue's turn. Great Magician Camilla looked at Sue with a trace of questioning in his eyes. Sue suppressed the uneasiness in his heart and nodded at Great Magician Camilla with a confident smile on his face. Great Magician Camilla finally relaxed and gave Sue an encouraging smile. Great Magician Eisenkel of course wasn't worried. He was just like the other 3 great magicians, curiously looking at Sue. In the circle of magicians in the Lampari Kingdom, Sue was already quite famous. Apart from the fact that he had passed the level 5 mage examination the previous year, what made him even more well-known to most mages was the magic machinery that he had researched. Before Sue, magicians didn't pay much attention to the application of magic. But after Sue researched the magic machines, magicians found that magic could be used with machines. The most important thing was that the magic machines made so much money. After many magicians found out about the new flyer and the magic machines, they all felt regret in their hearts. If they could think of using magic like this and invent magic machines before Sue, wouldn't they be able to earn a lot of money? Magicians were the same as normal people, they loved money. They even loved money more than normal people because as long as they had enough money, they could buy enough magic materials and experiment as they wished. So in reality, the growth of every magician was supported by large amounts of money. But when many magicians threw themselves into the research of magic machines, they found that magic machines weren't that easy to research. There were countless companies that researched magic machines in the Lampari Kingdom, but without the support of the new flyer, there wasn't a single company that could produce a magic machine that could compare to the new flyer. So the magicians of the Lampari Kingdom were even more curious about Sue. How did this guy come up with those magic machines? President Aaron's thoughts were different from the others. He was thinking about Sue's special visit to him last year about the magic patent bill. After a year of discussion, the Sorcerers' Guild had basically passed this bill. But there were some details that the Sorcerers' Guild hadn't reached a consensus on. For example, the issue of collecting patent fees. Many magicians said that they shouldn't collect it, but another group of magicians said that they had to collect it and they had to collect it in large amounts. President Aaron supported the idea of collecting patent fees, and according to his understanding of the decision-makers of the Sorcerers' Guild, the final rule would definitely be to collect it. But as for how much to collect, that would need to be discussed. President Aaron looked at Sue, who was the initiator of this bill, and thought about how Sue said last year that the new flyer could pay a high fee for magic patents. So how high was this so-called high? So when the 5 great magicians saw Sue go on stage, they all fell into a short silence because of their own thoughts. This strange situation immediately made Sue, who had already received the attention of other magicians, more attention. The other magicians saw that the 5 great magicians were all staring at Sue and couldn't help but feel envious and jealous. This Sue not only relied on magic machines to open the new flyer and earn that much money, he was also valued by 5 great magicians. He really was lucky. After a bit of silence, President Aaron finally reacted from the soft reminder of the staff member on the side. With a soft cough, he had Sui begin his high-level magic demonstration. Sui gave a bow to the 5 great magicians and then said to the staff member of the Sorcerers Guild in charge of the exam, "I specialize in wind magic, so I'll be demonstrating a high-level wind magic spell, lightning magic." The staff member was a 9th grade magician and nodded when he heard this. "All right, please begin." After saying this, he moved back a bit and activated the magic barrier around the exam room, leaving a large space for Sui. Under everyone's complicated gazes, Sui slightly raised his hands and the magic in his body began to quickly flow. Other than Great Magician Camilla, the other 4 great magicians and the magicians with the strongest magic power all knit their brows. Although lightning magic was an advanced form of wind magic and lightning magic were 2 different things. When using lightning magic, a magician would use their magic to move the surrounding lightning magic to form a spell. But with Sui's magic moving, the surrounding space began to change with wind magic, but the lightning magic didn't change at all. Other than that, even if it was wind elemental magic, there was only a small amount being used right now. Not to mention comparing it to a high-level lightning spell, even if it was just wind elemental magic, the spell Sui was using shouldn't be a high-level spell. However, after a while, the powerful magicians who could clearly feel the surrounding magic elements all had their expressions change. This was because they suddenly felt that the lightning magic elements around Sui's body had suddenly become active. However, this activity wasn't as regular as when it was being controlled by magic. It was like it wasn't being controlled and was running all over the place. Great Magician Eisenkel couldn't help knitting his brows as he said to Great Magician Camilla in a low voice, "It can't be that he hasn't properly grasped lightning magic, right? If it's like this, I suggest we have him stop first. Otherwise, if he continues like this, there might be a problem because he can't control the lightning magic element." Great Magician Camilla shook his head. "It's fine, this is a new type of lightning magic he developed himself. It's a bit special, but it isn't dangerous." New type of lightning magic? Hearing Great Magician Camilla's reply, Great Magician Eisenkel and the other 3 great magicians listening to their conversation were stunned. He can actually develop a new type of lightning magic himself? President Aaron couldn't help asking. Could it be that his magic talent is really that strong? Great Magician Camilla had a strange expression on his face. After pausing for a bit, he reluctantly nodded. His talent has always shocked me." Seeing that Great Magician Camilla actually confirmed this answer, everyone looked at Sui again with eyes filled with shock. The fact that this guy was able to advance from a 5th-tier magician to a 7th-tier magician in a year was already shocking enough. Now, he was even able to develop a new type of lightning magic. This only showed that his magical talent could not even be described as shocking. In front of everyone, Sui seemed to have finished the preparations for this spell. Everyone suddenly found that in the giant space of the test site, all the lightning magic elements suddenly began to wildly flow. At this moment, even the other magic casters standing outside the magic barrier felt the change in space, and their expressions changed drastically. Based on the intensity of the lightning magic fluctuations, what Sui was about to demonstrate would be a very shocking lightning magic. When this thought appeared in everyone's mind, there were countless beautiful bolts of lightning that appeared around Sui, instantly filling the entire test site with a deathly white light. Chapter 256. After a long while, everyone slowly recovered from the intense light. When they saw the situation in the examination hall clearly, everyone could not help but take in a breath of cold air. In the space covered by the magical shield, the entire ground was charred black, and there were many deep pits of different sizes that had been struck by lightning. It was a scene of devastation as far as the eye could see. Just from the extent of the damage to the ground of the examination hall, it could be seen how terrifying the power of the lightning spell that Sui had just released was. Everyone stared at Sui, who was standing in the middle as if nothing had happened, dumbfounded. For a moment they were all speechless. Ah! At this moment, the staff member of the Sorcerers' Guild, who was in charge of the magical shield in the examination hall, suddenly exclaimed, attracting everyone's attention. President Aaron frowned and glared at that staff member, and said in a slightly reproachful tone, "What's wrong? What's the fuss?" That staff member swallowed his saliva and pointed at the magical shield that he was in charge of. With a face of disbelief, he said, President, the magical shield seems to be a little broken." This time, everyone was stunned again. The magical shield was used to protect the magic used by the participating mages in the examination hall from affecting the outside of the examination hall. Because the participating mages were between the 6th and the 9th level, this magical shield was personally set up by President Aaron in consideration of the power of their magic. It was enough to offset the power of a normal level 9 spell. But now, after Su-Yi had released a lightning spell, this magical shield was actually broken. Could it be that the lightning spell that Su-Yi used was actually more powerful than a level 9 spell? President Aaron stood up and went to the magical shield to check, and could not help but heave a sigh of relief. He smiled and explained to everyone, "It's not a big deal. It's just that the lightning spell that Su-Yi used just now was a little special, so it directly offset the magical shield. It was not that the magical shield was broken because of its power." Hearing this explanation, everyone heaved a sigh of relief in unison. Fortunately, it was not because the power of Su-Yi's imitation was too strong. If this was really the reason, then it proved that a level 7 mage like him could actually use a spell that was more powerful than a level 9 mage. This was too shocking. Of course no one was willing to believe it. Seeing President Aaron finish inspecting the magical shield, Su-Yi asked with a faint smile, "May I ask Your Excellency President, did my high-level magic demonstration pass?" President Aaron looked at Su-Yi and couldn't help laughing. "You used such an exaggerated magic spell. If I didn't let you pass, do you think the others would agree?" Everyone else could not help nodding their heads. If Su-Yi's high-grade magic demonstration couldn't pass, then what did the magicians who passed before rely on to pass? Su-Yi laughed. "I feel that my control over this spell isn't that good, so I'm not certain if I can pass or not." Now that Su-Yi can pass the high-grade magic demonstration, I agree that he can pass. What do you all think? Great Magician Camilla and Great Magician Eisenkel were the first ones to agree. The other two great magicians looked at each other before nodding in agreement. So the high-level magic demonstration that Great Magician Camilla was most worried about was easily passed by Su-Yi. Only Great Magician Camilla looked at Su-Yi with a very strange expression, as if he was a bit angry and a bit amused. There was another difference between the high-level magician exam and the low-level magician exam. This was because there weren't many high-level magicians, so they didn't need to select a certain percentage to pass like the low-level magician exam. Rather, as long as you had the corresponding strength, no matter how many passed, they would all pass. So although the high-level magician exam had a practical test, it wasn't as strict as the low-level magician exam. When it came to the exam, although Great Magician Camilla didn't act as Su-Yi's examiner because of his principle of avoidance, Great Magician Eisenkel took the initiative to take charge of Su-Yi's exam. The others naturally didn't object, and Great Magician Eisenkel pretended to test him. Adding in the fact that Su-Yi's understanding of magic and magic was already at the level of a 7th-grade magician, he easily passed. After the exam, other than Su-Yi passing the 7th-grade magician exam and becoming a 7th-grade magician recognized by the Sorcerers' Guild, over half of the other 46 magicians had passed. Of the 12 researchers in New Flyer, only 3 passed, and they were all 5th-grade magicians. They passed the 6th-grade exam and became 6th-grade magicians. Compared to this, they weren't even at the average level. But Su-Yi wasn't disappointed with this result. rather he was pleasantly surprised. High-level magicians had a good understanding of their own strength. These researchers had already told Sue that their strength wasn't enough for them to be promoted, so Sue didn't think that they would pass the exam. But now there were 3 researchers that had passed the exam and been promoted. This was a bit unexpected. Then again, Sue had already achieved the advertising effect he wanted, so the rest were just minor details that he didn't care about. After the exam ended, the other magicians left the exam room, but Sue was left alone. President Aaron had Sue follow him and the other 4 great magicians into a room behind the exam room to hold a meeting. As for the topic of the meeting, it was about the details of the patent law. Sue didn't have any right to speak about other matters, so he just listened in at the beginning. But when the discussion came to how much should be charged for the patent, President Aaron called out Sue to express his opinion. Your Excellencies, regarding this problem, I think there are 2 solutions that are more suitable. Sue said. There are actually 2? President Aaron was a little surprised. Let's hear it. The first one is to not link the patent protection fee with the patent usage fee. The Sorcerers Guild will charge a fixed fee for every magic research that applies for a patent. As for how to differentiate it, it will be graded according to the importance of the magic research, and a fixed amount will be given for each level. Then how should the amount be set? Different magic research has different difficulties, so I'm afraid it's not appropriate to have the same amount. President Aaron asked again. This is simple. For example, there's a magic research that applies for patent protection that's related to level 1 magic. After evaluation, it's not that important and difficult, so it's rated as level 1 and only costs 10 gold coins a year. But there's another magic research that applies for patent protection that's related to level 5 magic. Usually, it's more difficult and more important than the previous one, so it's rated as level 5 and costs 50 gold coins a year or more. Sue replied. But there's another problem. If a magician develops a more important magic, but can't afford to pay a high-level magic patent protection fee, then wouldn't the patent protection be meaningless? The one who asked this question was one of the 2 great magicians that Sue didn't know before. His name was Samuel Torres. Sue smiled faintly. Your Excellency, Great Magician Torres, if a magician can't even afford a trivial patent protection fee, then do you think he has enough money to research new magic? Great Magician Torres stared blankly and couldn't help but nod. Indeed, researching magic was a very expensive thing, especially when it came to new magic theories that he didn't have any experience with before. All right, Sue, tell me about the other solution. President Aaron urged. As for the second solution, the Sorcerers Guild won't limit the amount of patent protection fee, and it'll be decided by the magicians themselves. Decided by themselves? The great magicians were all stunned. How? It's very simple. If you feel that the patent you want to apply for is very important, then you can pay more patent protection fee to the Sorcerers Guild. Then the Sorcerers Guild will determine the fee for using the patent according to a certain ratio. In other words, the patent protection fee will be tied together with the patent fees. The more you pay, the more compensation you get, and the more the others pay for the usage fees. The great magicians considered it for a bit, and great magician Eisenkel couldn't help praising. I like this solution. It's like making money. If you want to make more money, you have to invest more. But I've always been worried about a problem. That is that more and more magicians will apply for patent protection for their magic research. When that time comes, wouldn't any magician that wants to learn new magic have to pay a large amount of money? The one who asked this question was another great magician Sue didn't recognize, Great Magician Como Tolucci. Sue looked at him and thought that he should be one of the conservative magicians in the Sorcerers Guild that opposed the patent law. Your Excellency, Great Magician Tolucci, perhaps the problem you're worried about exists, but haven't you noticed that even before the patent law, it wasn't easy for magicians to learn new magic? Sui asked back. That's still better than spending money to buy it, right? Great Magician Talachi said. No, you're wrong. Sui shook his head and said without any politeness. Actually, magicians normally treasure the new magic they research and treat it as their private collection, not easily revealing it to others. In fact, after so many years, the level of magic on the entire continent had not improved much compared to thousands of years ago. This was because even if there were magicians who developed new spells and gained new knowledge and understanding of magic, they would not be willing to share it. At most, they would only teach it to a few of their students. As for the other magicians, they have no chance of learning about their new research and discoveries. Great Magician Camilla gave a soft sigh and said with a nod, Sui is right. I've always felt that this situation was a pity. If everyone could share their magic research, the magic level of the signs would have far surpassed the elves of the past. But after I met some elves through Sui, I found that after several thousand years, our human magic still can't compare to the elves' magic. The other great magicians were silent. As great magicians, their horizons were naturally different from those of low-level magicians. As for the reason Sui mentioned that humans' magic level was limited, they were much clearer on it than Sui. Sui smiled and continued, so, Great Magician Talachi, compared to not being able to learn anything, being able to buy it with money is already a very large improvement. The Sorcerers' Guild can't expect all magicians to be so selfless, sharing their magic research. Then tell the magicians that they can sell their magic research for money. I think that with the motivation of money, not only will it encourage many mages to share their research findings, but it will also encourage more mages to invest more energy into magic research. And because of the support of money, they will have the ability to conduct more magic research. Great Magician Eisenkel slapped the table and said with a look of joy, This is what I always wanted to say. You always accused me of falling into the abyss of gold coins, but have you ever thought about how hard it was for us to become great magicians? If we had enough gold coins, we might have been able to become great magicians even faster. As for Great Magician Eisenkel's words, the other 4 great magicians thought about it and found that they couldn't refute it. If a magician wanted to increase their strength, other than talent, the most important thing was to keep doing magic research. Magic research required money, and without money, they would naturally grow slower than others. This was an axiom in the magician circle. The room was silent for a while before President Aaron gave a soft cough and said, Everyone should have no objections to the patent bill. What we need to confirm now is, of the 2 plans Sui mentioned, which one do you support? The other 4 great magicians looked at each other before Great Magician Eisenkel said, I support the second plan. Then Great Magician Camilla expressed that he had no objections to either plan. Great Magician Torres and Great Magician Talachi also didn't express their opinions. They felt that Sui's 2 plans were very reasonable, and they could report both plans to the Magicians' Union headquarters, representing the opinion of the Lampari Kingdom's Sorcerers' Guild branch. Very good, then we'll report both plans. President Aaron made his decision before turning to say to Sui, Sui, I'll have to trouble you to help me. Make an analysis of these 2 plans and I'll submit it to headquarters together. Sui naturally agreed very quickly. This kind of matter that could leave his mark in the Magicians' Union headquarters and would greatly affect the new flyer, how could he let go of this chance? Chapter 257. Back in the horse carriage from the test site, Great Magician Camilla had been looking at Sui the entire time with a strange smile on his face. Sui felt uncomfortable being stared at like this and couldn't help saying, Your Excellency Great Magician, what are you smiling at? Didn't you agree that I used this to pass last night? You can't be saying that I cheated now, right? If I felt that you were cheating, I would have exposed you just now. Great Magician Camilla shook his head and said, I just feel that this matter doesn't make sense even now. Why is it that you clearly used simple wind-attributed magic, but with a small magic machine, you were able to create fluctuations of lightning-attributed magic and release lightning-attributed magic? What is even more strange is that the might of this magic is this strong, it even surpasses the limit of your magic control. So I couldn't control it at all. Sui spread his hands and said, "If it wasn't for the magic protection of the exam grounds, the lightning would have scattered in all directions. Perhaps someone would have been hurt." "Hurt who?" Great Magician Camilla gave a laugh. Great Magician Camilla gave a laugh. "Although your magic is very strong, you didn't control it and its might was scattered, so its might was not even comparable to a 6th grade spell. Who could you hurt?" "Then what if I could completely control it?" Sui couldn't help asking back. Great Magician Camilla seriously thought about it and his expression became serious. "If you could completely control it, I'm afraid even I would have to seriously deal with it." After pausing, Great Magician Camilla reached his hand out to Sui. "Let me take a look at that generator, I want to properly study it." Sui rolled up his sleeve and revealed the small generators that were tightly wrapped around his arm. He took one of them off and gave it to Great Magician Camilla. This small generator idea was something that he suddenly thought of when he was thinking of how to solve the problem of the street lamp. On Earth, electricity was a very important part of modern industry. Sui always thought of using magic and the power of magic arrays to make magic machines, imitating the industrial machines on Earth. So when he thought of the street lamps, he kept this thought process. Later, when he realized that it was difficult to solve the problem of street lamps, this idea suddenly flashed through his mind. The electricity on Earth was actually converted from other sources of power, so according to this inference, it was obviously very possible that magic power could be converted into electricity. The first thing that came to his mind was not lightning magic, but a generator. The reason why the generator could be discovered was that the rotating closed coil continuously cut the magnetic flux of the magnetic field to generate magneto-electric current, converting kinetic energy into electrical energy. On Earth, the kinetic energy of the closed coil cutting magnetic field was mainly the heat provided by coal, the impact force provided by water flow, and some wind and nuclear energy. Sui's first thought was wind energy. Therefore, Sui followed the basic structure of the wind energy generator according to the principle of the wind energy generator. After several days of research, he finally made a small wind energy generator. When Hannes brought Kennard, Sophia, and Hank Wilson to Banta City to visit him, he was researching this thing. As for how to provide wind energy, Sui thought of using a wind magic array, using the wind energy from the wind magic array to turn the coil to cut the magnetic field. The initial experiment was considered a success. When Sui used the wind magic array to turn the coil, this small wind energy generator actually released electricity. But Sui's research stopped at this step for now. As for how to direct this electricity, how to store it, and how to increase the power output, he didn't have any ideas for now. He wasn't in a rush at first and was planning on slowly researching it when he had time. However, when Great Magician Camilla told him that he had to demonstrate high-grade magic to pass the high-grade magician exam, he helplessly thought of this method. In fact, although he hadn't really mastered any high-grade magic, as a mage, when his magic power increased to the level of a 7th-tier mage, he naturally had some corresponding research on high-grade magic. And just as he said, he was especially proficient in wind magic, which was why he paid more attention to lightning magic. When he was experimenting with the small wind energy generator, Sui was surprised to find that the electricity released by the generator was very similar to the lightning elemental magic described in the lightning magic array. So he tried to use the lightning elemental magic array to control this electricity. The result was shocking. He could actually use magic to control this electricity. This allowed Sui to immediately understand. The so-called lightning elemental magic array was actually the electrical charge in space. According to the theory of lightning magic, magicians using magic to affect lightning elemental magic array was using magic to forcefully affect space, creating electrical charge to control, creating lightning magic. For Su Yi's conjecture, there was a very strong proof. It was that when there was thunder and rain, magicians who were good at lightning magic would be very strong. So when Su Yi was considering the problem of demonstrating high-grade magic, he thought of the experiment he had done before. Yesterday afternoon, he had mentioned this idea to great magician Camilla and Steele. Although great magician Camilla and Steele didn't understand his idea and didn't dare believe it, when they saw Su Yi use a small wind energy generator to create lightning elemental magic array and use magic to control it, the two of them were shocked. However, they had no choice but to admit that this was indeed a good method of deceiving everyone. Of course, a single small wind energy generator didn't produce much electricity and there wasn't enough lightning elemental magic array. Even if he used lightning magic, it would attract suspicion because it wasn't strong enough. So to be safe, Su Yi had manager Ram buy a bunch of materials to make small wind energy generators. With the help of great magician Camilla and Steele, he made 20 small wind energy generators. Then he wrapped them around his arms and created 2 wind energy generators. When he was demonstrating the high-grade magic, Su Yi had directly injected magic into the 20 small wind energy generators. He activated the wind magic array inside and made the 20 small wind energy generators produce electricity at the same time, instantly creating a large amount of lightning elemental magic array. As for the following matter, it was much simpler. Although Su Yi's magic couldn't control this large amount of lightning elemental magic array, it wasn't a problem for him to guide it. He only needed to use all his magic and control the lightning elemental magic array to release it according to the basic principles of lightning magic. Facts proved that the effects of this were very good. After the emergency training under the guidance of great magician Camilla yesterday, Su Yi had used the lightning spell at the high-grade magic demonstration. Just the might of the lightning spell had shocked everyone and easily passed the test. But even if he personally saw Su Yi use the small wind energy generator to generate electricity, great magician Camilla still couldn't understand the principle behind it. Taking the small wind energy generator from Su Yi, great magician Camilla looked it over in his hand a few times. His magic slightly moved and the wind magic array inside the small wind energy generator was activated. The coil began to quickly turn and let out a buzzing sound. In the blink of an eye, there were traces of electricity being generated. Great magician Camilla thought for a bit before moving his magic again. There were small bolts of lightning that appeared in his hand, looking very beautiful. Su Yi, how did you think of this thing? This is too amazing. It has completely subverted my understanding of magic. After stopping moving his magic, great magician Camilla looked at the small wind energy generator in his hand and couldn't help asking this to Su Yi. Su Yi looked at great magician Camilla and then looked at the small wind energy generator in his hand. He thought that if the people of Earth knew that the magicians of the signs could directly control electricity and generate electricity, their worldview would be destroyed. It had to be known which child on Earth wasn't taught that they couldn't touch this and that they couldn't touch that. People being electrocuted to death was common knowledge on Earth. In this world, not only could powerful magicians not be electrocuted to death, they could even control lightning. This also subverted common knowledge on Earth. For example, Su Yi had never thought that he could control the electricity generated by the wind energy generator and even use it as a weapon. Thinking about it, Su Yi found that it was impossible to completely explain the principles of the wind energy generator to great magician Camilla. Moreover, he didn't know how he knew the principles, so he could only vaguely reply, "This is something I discovered when I was bored doing magic machine experiments." If you ask me the specific principles, I'm not too clear on it. Great Magician Camilla didn't think too much about it and just nodded. He looked at the small wind energy generator in his hand and put it in his pocket without any politeness. Let me study this thing a bit. Sui, of course, could only nod in response. But after looking at Great Magician Camilla, Sui suddenly thought of an even stranger problem. According to the theories of the signs, for a powerful magician like Great Magician Camilla, he could easily use large-scale lightning spells. Magicians with high proficiency in lightning spells could even use forbidden-level lightning spells, which was lightning that could compare to nature. But if these powerful magicians were to use their magic to control the stable output of lightning elemental magic, wouldn't they be able to become a generator themselves? Thinking of this, Sui couldn't help thinking of a scene. On a dark night, there was a power outage in the house for some unknown reason. Steele loudly shouted upstairs, "Grandfather, there's a power outage, can you generate some electricity?" Then the respected and honorable Great Magician Camilla gave a sound of acknowledgement. His magic was fully activated and electricity flowed through his body. In the blink of an eye, the various electrical appliances in the house lit up again. Chapter 258. Thinking of the strange scene of Great Magician Camilla generating electricity on the way back, Sui used a lot of effort to control himself from laughing in front of him. It really was quite hard. However, this good mood instantly disappeared when he returned to the yard with Great Magician Camilla. Other than Steele, there was a large group of researchers from the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce wearing the same magic robe. Seeing them all filled with righteous indignation, even the cheerful Akali and Bella were filled with anger. Sui couldn't help being surprised. He quickly asked Steele, "What is it? Did something happen?" Steele slightly knit her brows. Although her face was calm, one could still see the anger in her heart. "In the magician exam just now, a researcher was injured." "Injured? Is it serious?" Sui immediately asked. "It's very serious." Steele nodded and said in a deep voice, "But we've already asked Manager Ram to invite the best doctor in the city, and the doctor said that there is no danger to his life." Sui let out a sigh of relief. "It's good that there is no danger to his life. Then will there be any other side effects, like being crippled?" "He shouldn't be crippled, but a few of his bones were broken and he is still unconscious. The doctor said that he will need to rest for at least half a year." "That's good. As long as there is no danger to his life and he isn't crippled, everything else is fine." Sui finally relaxed. "It doesn't matter if he recovers for half a year. Since he is an employee of our new flyer, the company will protect him. I will announce that his salary will be paid as usual for the next half a year. Moreover, because he is participating in the exam organized by the company, all of his medical expenses will be covered by the company for the next half a year." In the last part, Sui slightly raised his voice and said this to the researchers present. After hearing Sui's words, the worried expressions on the faces of the researchers faded a lot, but they still looked indignant. Bella loudly said to Sui, "Sir Chairman, Allery suffered such heavy injuries because of our company. It's only right for the company to take care of him. But just curing him isn't enough. You're the president. You have to help us, right?" "Stand out? Stand out for what?" Sui was a little confused at first, but after thinking about it, he reacted. "That's right. The low-level tests are only meant to test the magic caster's abilities. Why would the person in charge of the tests be so heavy-handed to Allery? Because the one who did it was Aaron." Steele sighed. "In the exam just now, I don't know what happened with Allen, but he became Allery's examiner and kept mocking Allery and our Frestec Chamber of Commerce. Allery couldn't help using all his strength during the test, but he was heavily injured by Aaron for attacking the examiner." "That's right, it's that Aaron," Bella loudly said. "Sir Chairman, when we were outside the test room, this fellow came out to provoke you. I think he has a grudge with you, but he doesn't dare take revenge on you, so he chose to attack us subordinates. He's too shameless. Aaron? Sui tightly knit his brows. He turned to look at Great Magician Camilla, who had been watching the entire time, using his eyes to ask for his thoughts. Great Magician Camilla gave a cold snort. President Aaron's son has been spoiled by him. Not to mention him interfering in the Sorcerers Guild's test. He even casually attacked the magicians participating in the test. I can't ignore this matter. Sui, I'll have a good talk with President Aaron later. Sui nodded and turned to the other researchers to say, everyone, don't worry. His Excellency Great Magician Camilla has already agreed to find President Aaron for justice, so I think this Aaron will definitely be punished. Bella was still a bit unconvinced as she shouted, but Sir Chairman, I've heard that this Aaron is President Aaron's only son. Even if Great Magician Camilla goes to find President Aaron wouldn't do anything to him, right? Claire on the side pulled at Bella and complained in a low voice, Are you a fool? You already know that this fellow is the president's son, so what do you want Sir Chairman to do to him? Do you want Sir Chairman to heavily injure him? Don't forget that his father is the chairman of the Sorcerers Guild. Why not? He dares to heavily injure others, so why can't he receive the same punishment? Bella was still unconvinced as she pointed at Sui and angrily said, Sir Chairman, I've always admired you. If you don't give Alarie justice, I won't like you in the future. Sui almost broke out in laughter. He thought that Bella was over 20 years old this year, so why was she still as impulsive as a little girl? Of course, he couldn't really laugh, so he forced it down. He nodded at Bella and said, Relax, I'll do my best to get justice for Alarie. But since Great Magician Camilla has already said that he wants to discuss this matter with President Aaron, then we'll wait for the results of the discussion between Great Magician Camilla and President Aaron before we decide what to do. If President Aaron insists on protecting Aaron, I'll definitely find a way to give Alarie justice. Only then did Bella nod her head in satisfaction. Mr. President, this is what you promised. Steele and Great Magician Camilla on the side slightly knit their brows. Steele wanted to say a few words to Sui, but after thinking about it, she didn't say anything in front of everyone. After comforting everyone with a few words, Sui entered the room to see Alarie. Alarie's injuries were very serious and he was still unconscious, but according to the doctor on the side, his life wasn't in danger and he wasn't crippled. Sui finally calmed down. Following this, Sui had the other researchers return to the Sheldon Inn to rest. He also strongly rejected Bella's request to stay and take care of Alarie. He said that he would spend a large amount of money to hire the best caretakers and make sure that nothing would happen to Alarie. After sending these angry researchers away with great difficulty, Great Magician Camilla thought about it and decided to pay a visit to President Aaron. Sui stayed behind and ordered Manager Ram to do two things for him. The first was to find the best caretakers in Anvil City and have them take care of Alarie all day. The second thing was for him to send someone to inform Baron Hannes. An hour later, Hannes quickly came to the yard. When he saw Sui, he immediately asked, Who was injured? It can't be you, right? After saying this, he circled around Sui and carefully looked him over. Of course it wasn't me. Sui angrily slapped away Hannes' hand that was about to reach out to him. If it was me, do you think that brat Aaron would be fine right now? He would be lying in bed without being able to move. Hannes laughed. It's good that it wasn't you. But hearing you talk about that fellow lying in bed without being able to move, I remembered that during the Sorcerers Guild exam last year, you heavily injured that fellow and forced him to lie in bed for an entire month before coming out, right? I did injure him, but isn't lying in bed for an entire month a bit too exaggerated? I think it should be President Aaron who locked him in his home for an entire month. Sui said. Whether it's lying in bed for a month or being locked in for a month, that brat hasn't been able to go out for an entire month. Anvilmar City has become much quieter and many people are cheering behind his back. Hannes said with a smile. Is that fellow that unpopular? Sui asked in a surprised voice. Of course. Let me tell you, Anvilmar City has 3 scourges that you shouldn't provoke. One of them is that brat. Do you think he's popular? There are 3 scourges? Then who are the other 2 scourges? Sui asked with interest. Other than that brat, the other 2 scourges. Hannes suddenly laughed. One of them is related to you, it's Victor. But ever since this brat listened to you and ran off to do business with Sel and Urgot, he rarely did anything that would harm others. Speaking of this, Sui, even though you haven't come to Anvilmar City that many times, you've made great contributions to Anvilmar City. Sui and Steele couldn't help smiling. Steele couldn't help asking with a smile, then who is the last scourge? The last one, speaking of which, it is a bit related to Sui because he comes from the Joel family, Vincent Joel. Hearing this name, Sui couldn't help looking at Steele. Steele was also surprised, she never thought that she would hear this name again. How did he become one of the 3 scourges? Steele couldn't help asking. We were classmates before. Even though I know that this person is very annoying, his reputation isn't that bad, right? It's not that bad? Hannes glanced at Steele and let out an ear-piercing laugh. That's because this brat knows how to put on an act. Aaron and Victor are considered scourges because they always use their family's power to bully the normal people in the city. Seriously speaking, they haven't done anything harmful. Vincent, on the other hand, was different. He was named as one of the 3 scourges because he often used his looks and family background to deceive the ignorant young ladies in the city. Let me tell you, I know of at least 10 girls who have been tricked and abandoned by him. Speaking of this, Hannes paused and then asked Steele, Miss Steele, you're so pretty, that Vincent must have pestered you before, right? But since you know that he's annoying, you shouldn't have been tricked by him. Let me tell you, being handsome doesn't matter. Although this Vincent is more handsome than Sui, he is still far from being comparable. You chose Sui, your eyes really aren't bad. Steele's face turned red and Hannes thought that she was embarrassed because he praised her for choosing Sui. When he was about to say something, Sui suddenly coughed and stopped Hannes from continuing. Alright, let's not talk about this. Hannes, I called you over to help me investigate this Aaron. Sui said. Investigate him for what? Could it be you want to take revenge on him? Hannes asked back. Let's not talk about revenge for now. I just feel that great magician Camilla's visit to President Aaron won't have any results, so it's good for me to make some preparations. Sui said. Hannes nodded. President Aaron's wife is famous for spoiling her son, so I don't think there will be any results. But are you really planning on doing something to this Aaron? If this brat is really injured by you, I'm afraid President Aaron won't let you off easily. Sui revealed a faint smile. To make someone feel pain, it's not just a choice to injure him. Chapter 259. When great magician Camilla returned to the yard before lunch, he had a sinister look on his face. It could be seen that he was in a bad mood. As Sui expected, he didn't receive any results from his visit to President Aaron. Although President Aaron had apologized to great magician Camilla for Aaron injuring Allery and was very surprised that great magician Camilla had personally come out for this matter, when it came to how he should punish Aaron, he avoided it in every possible way. Great magician Camilla had asked several times and President Aaron had even said that being injured in the exam was allowed in the rules of the Sorcerers' Guild. The magicians participating in the exam should already be prepared, so although Aaron had injured Allery, it wasn't a big mistake. Speaking of this, great magician Camilla naturally knew that he couldn't continue this conversation because President Aaron was clearly protecting Aaron, so he could only angrily leave. Damn! Next time at the headquarters meeting, I will definitely impeach him. As the branch president, he only cares about protecting his family and doesn't even care about the safety of other magicians. He isn't worthy of being the president at all. Great Magician Camilla angrily said. Although he had been scolded by Great Magician Camilla, this was Su Yi's first time seeing Great Magician Camilla angry. He never thought that he would be like a child when he was angry, saying such words that didn't care about the consequences. As a great magician, impeaching the branch president of his country's Sorcerers Guild branch at the Magicians' Union headquarters meeting was a very serious matter. Because of the special status of a great magician, the Magicians' Union headquarters would attach great importance to the impeachment of a great magician and would investigate it. However, no matter what the result of the investigation was, it meant that Great Magician Camilla and Palm's Aaron had completely broken off. Everyone was in the Lampari Kingdom's small circle of magicians. After this situation was formed, no matter what the result was, both sides wouldn't have a good time. What are you afraid of? He has done this kind of thing as the president. This is a dereliction of duty. If I don't impeach him because of my own benefits, what meaning do I have as a person? Faced with Steele's persuasion, Great Magician Camilla was still very angry and didn't have any intentions of compromising. Steele knew how stubborn Great Magician Camilla was, so she knew that persuading him like this would have no effect. She could only look at Su Yi for help. Su Yi gave Steele a reassuring look before saying to Great Magician Camilla, "Your Excellency Great Magician, it isn't hard to punish Ankh Aaron. You don't have to force President Aaron to punish him. After all, this fellow is President Allen's only son. In addition, his mother dotes on him very much. It is indeed not easy for President Allen to make a move." Great Magician Camilla glared at him. What? Could it be that he was going to let that bastard off just like that? Have you forgotten that you promised to give Allery justice in front of that little girl named Bella? Su Yi was stunned. He never thought that Great Magician Camilla would care about this matter. He couldn't help feeling a bit moved as he slowly shook his head. No, Ankh Aaron has to be punished. I'm just saying that there's no need to force President Aaron to do this. Your Excellency Great Magician, give me 2 days and I will definitely punish Ankh Aaron. Please be assured. Great Magician Camilla was stunned and instantly felt a bit of disbelief. You wouldn't be planning on beating him up yourself, right? Su Yi laughed. Relax, I'm not that stupid. As for how I'll do it, you'll just have to wait and see. Great Magician Camilla looked at Su Yi with a confused gaze before looking at Still, who had a confident smile on her face. He couldn't help muttering, I don't know what kind of strange thing you're doing. All right, since you said you have a way, then it's up to you. But if you can't do it, then I'll have to make a move. Relax, I won't let an old man like you personally make a move. Su Yi said with a smile. ####. There was a remote street to the south of Anvilmar City. During the day, there was almost no one here, but once night came, this place would become very lively. This was because this street had the largest casino and the best brothel in Anvilmar City. Every night, there would be many people who would come here to have fun and indulge themselves. Ankh Aaron exerted a bit of force and pushed away the woman who was clinging onto him, revealing half of her chest. He quickened his steps and walked straight into a brightly lit and luxuriously decorated building in the middle of the street. This was the street and the largest casino in Anvilmar City. It was called the Op Casino. Although Ankh Aaron had just turned 18 this year, he was clearly a regular here. After entering the door, he skillfully tossed 2 silver coins to the doorman as a tip and got him to follow him to exchange 100 gold coins worth of chip. After that, he walked to the side of the table where the roulette was being played. Since he first entered this casino 3 years ago, he would come here every once in a while to try his luck. Although he had already lost over 5,000 gold coins in these 3 years, he still enjoyed it. In any case, even if he did not have any money on hand, as long as he went back to ask his mother for it, she would definitely give it to him. He did not feel any pressure at all. Looking at the roulette table, Aaron casually chose a spot and placed a gold coin worth of chips on a small dot. The roulette table spun for a while before stopping at 16. It was clear that Aaron had lost. However, he did not care. After playing a few more rounds, he lost 7 gold coins worth of chip. He felt that his luck was not good today and decided to leave and change to another game. But just as he was about to turn around, he suddenly saw a gambler flash in from the side. He raised his hand and threw 100 gold coin worth of chips into the roulette table. The gamblers around the roulette table were all shocked. The gamblers in the hall usually did not play big. Most of them would only throw 1 to 10 gold coins at a time. This gambler actually threw in 100 gold coins at once. It seemed like he was definitely a rich gambler. Aaron couldn't help sizing up this rich gambler that suddenly came in. After using the light from the magic lamp in the hall to clearly see this person's face, he was even more shocked. "Urgot? It's actually you." The rich gambler that suddenly came in was Aaron's old acquaintance, Urgot. It had to be known that when Aaron first entered the casino 3 years ago, he was brought in by Urgot. 2 years ago, the two of them would often come to this casino to play. Only in the past year, Urgot had gradually faded from his sight. He had heard that he had gone to do some business. He never thought that Urgot would suddenly appear in front of him today and throw out 100 gold coins in chips in such a straightforward manner. Hearing this shout, it was like Urgot was seeing Aaron for the first time as he looked over him in surprise. It's actually you, Brad. What is it? Why did you come here to play again today? Shouldn't I be the one asking you this? You haven't come here in a year. Why did you suddenly come here today? Moreover, Aaron pointed at the 100 gold coin worth of chips on the table and asked with a bit of difficulty, "Did you really become rich? You actually threw in 100 gold coins at once?" Urgot laughed. "It's not that rich, I just earned a bit from doing business with Victor and the others." Aaron wanted to ask more, but the wheel began to turn. He immediately stopped talking and stared at the wheel. The wheel finally stopped at the 19-point position and Urgot had bet 14 points, so naturally he didn't win. Aaron couldn't help giving a long sigh. I didn't win." Urgot gave an indifferent shrug. "It's fine if I didn't win, it's normal." Seeing the relaxed expression on Urgot's face, Aaron's face couldn't help twitching. He had only brought a total of 100 gold coins tonight, and he felt a bit of pain every time he lost a gold coin. However, Urgot had lost 100 gold coins at once, and he didn't care about it at all. Since Urgot had also appeared, Aaron didn't plan on leaving and the two of them played a few rounds together. Urgot would throw in 100 gold coins each time, and he would bet on a single point each time, so naturally he had a high chance of losing. In the blink of an eye, he had already lost a full 1,000 gold coins. However, Urgot's expression didn't change and the gamblers around the table were all silent. Everyone looked at this rich guest and didn't know what to say. Seeing everyone's gazes gather on him, although he knew they weren't looking at him, Aaron's face still felt a bit unnatural. He was clearly familiar with Urgot, but Urgot had thrown in 100 gold coins each time and he had only thrown in a single gold coin each time. Comparing this, it was just too embarrassing. Moreover, Urgot's expression didn't change even after losing 1,000 gold coins. He had only lost 10 gold coins and was already feeling a bit nervous. Comparing this, the difference was even larger. Perhaps it was because he had lost 10 times in a row, but Urgot felt like his luck wasn't that good. He suggested to Aaron that they should change tables to play. Aaron thought about it and agreed. After walking a few steps behind Urgot, Aaron hesitated a bit before suddenly gathering his courage and saying to Urgot in a small voice, "Urgot, do you have any more money on you right now? How about you lend me a bit first?" Urgot turned around to look at him and slightly narrowed his eyes. "You really want to borrow it?" Since he had already said this, Aaron wasn't afraid of losing face as he forcefully nodded. I really want to borrow it. I want to flip through some books. Of course, if it's not convenient for you, then. Urgot smiled and forcefully patted Aaron's shoulder as he said, "We're all good brothers, what's inconvenient about it?" As he spoke, he took out 1,000 gold coin note and handed it to Aaron. "Here, take it first and tell me if it's not enough." Seeing the large amount on the gold note, Aaron's eyes almost popped out. Although he had never lacked pocket money since he was young, this was the first time he had seen such a large amount of gold note. Aaron's hands trembled as he received the gold note. After swallowing a mouthful of saliva, he revealed a forced smile and said, "I'll go exchange for chips first." After saying this, he quickly left. Looking at Aaron's back as he left, Urgot's lips curled into a meaningful smile. Chapter 260. Urgot and Ankh? While Alan was fighting in the Op Casino, Sue was already in the palace. He was participating in the celebration banquet held by the king to celebrate the Lampari Kingdom's harvest. As a hero personally named by the king, Sue was not only singled out by the king at the beginning of the celebration banquet and praised in front of everyone, but he also gave Sue a special reward in front of everyone. In order to reward Sue and the new flyer for sharing the harvest, the king gave Sue a promotion from an honorary lord to a baron of the kingdom. An honorary lord could only be said to be an honorary title and couldn't be considered a true noble. However, becoming a baron of the kingdom meant that Sue had officially stepped into the circle of nobles and had truly become a noble of the Lampari kingdom. Hearing this reward, everyone at the banquet was very surprised. Because according to the rules of the kingdom's noble parliament, nobles of the kingdom were not allowed to directly participate in business. Therefore, even if the nobles of the kingdom wanted to engage in business activities, they would have to find an agent and hide behind the scenes to command. But now, the king had directly made Sue, the president of the new flyer, a baron of the kingdom. Although a baron was only the lowest level of nobles, it was tantamount to directly violating this rule. What was even stranger was that the speaker of the kingdom's noble parliament, Duke Rithdor, was present, but he didn't express any objections. Therefore, Sue's status as a baron of the kingdom had now become the most special baron of the Lampari kingdom. This also let everyone know how much the king valued Sue. While giving Sue a generous reward, the reward given to the new flyer was relatively unremarkable. It was only giving the new flyer the title of Kingdom's Honorary Chamber of Commerce. This title could only be regarded as an honor and had no practical meaning. To be honest, it could only be regarded as increasing the reputation of the new flyer. However, Sue himself didn't see it this way. As a person who had transmigrated from Earth, he knew very well how much the ordinary people approved of officially recognized brands. If there was a company on Earth that could be directly recognized and recognized by the government, then the advertising effect would far exceed that of the company's advertisements on television and various media. Now that New Flyer had obtained the title of Kingdom's Honorary Chamber of Commerce, there might still be some unconvinced commoners on Earth who doubted it. However, in signs, the commoners of the Lampari Kingdom believed that New Flyer would instantly become a first-class and trustworthy chamber of commerce. This was very beneficial to Sue's goal of promoting New Flyer to the entire Lampari Kingdom. Of course, this reward was something that Sue had proposed when negotiating with Seveni in private. The king was planning on giving New Flyer some practical rewards, but Sue had rejected them all and suggested that this title was enough. Under Sue's insistence, the king naturally agreed to Sue's request. Because of this, the king had thanked Sue through Seveni. Because the kingdom's finances weren't loose, if they really wanted to give New Flyer a practical reward, it would increase the kingdom's financial burden. Now that Sue had taken the initiative to reject it, It was equal to helping the king. Hey, practical benefits. I can't have the king give me a few mines, right? Sui thought of Seveni's apologetic expression when talking to him and revealed a smile. He looked over the banquet hall and quickly locked onto his first target. Even if he had been in the limelight because of the king's special conferment, in the eyes of the large nobles in the banquet hall, Sui was just a small merchant that had just taken a step into the circle of nobles, so he didn't attract any special attention. But when some people noticed that he had taken the initiative to find Joseph Marquis, they couldn't help being surprised. Joseph Marquis was the head of the Joseph family. His status was countless times higher than a small merchant like Sui. Wasn't he afraid of losing face by going to find him like this? However, to everyone's surprise, although Joseph Marquis was surprised that Sui had taken the initiative to find him, after thinking about it, he actually left the large nobles that he had talked to before and went to a remote corner with Sui to talk in private. Sir Marquis, thank you for giving me a chance to talk. Sui raised his wine cup to express his gratitude to Joseph Marquis. Joseph Marquis was 47 this year, but because he had maintained himself well, he looked like he was in his early 40s. He still looked young and strong, not looking fat at all. His eyes were filled with vigor, so one could tell with a single glance that he wasn't a normal person. Hearing Sui's words, Joseph Marquis gave a slight nod. Actually, I wanted to talk to Chairman Su a long time ago. Today is a good chance. All right, I know that Sir Marquis time is precious, so I won't beat around the bush. Sui said with a faint smile. Sir Marquis, I came looking for you mainly to discuss the matter of the Foucault Chamber of Commerce. Joseph Marquis took a sip of the wine in his hand and said in a thoughtful voice, You should discuss this matter with Chairman Morgan. I normally don't meddle in the matters of the company in Banta City. The problem is that the matter I want to discuss with you isn't limited to Banta City, rather it's related to the Foucault Chamber of Commerce's business in the kingdom. It's even related to the Foucault Chamber of Commerce's business in other countries. Joseph Marquis raised a brow. Oh? Chairman Su, isn't your tone a bit too big? Although your new flyer has developed quite well, you don't have the qualification to discuss the Foucault Chamber of Commerce's business in the kingdom in front of me, right? Sui said with a smile. Sir Marquis, can I ask you a question first? Joseph gave a slight nod, asked. According to what I know, the Foucault Chamber of Commerce, other than the iron ore business in the kingdom, are they only involved in the copper business and aren't they involved in any other metal mines? Sui asked. Other metal mines? Joseph Marquis narrowed his eyes. After thinking for a bit, he suddenly asked, Chairman Su, I've heard that your new flyer has found a non-ferrous metal mine on the Black Rice Wasteland. Is this the other metal mine you mentioned? Sui couldn't help revealing a bright smile. Based on this question, although Joseph Marquis didn't care about the new flyer at all, he actually paid close attention to it. He actually knew about his actions on the Black Rice Wasteland. Yes. I wanted to discuss the matter of the non-ferrous metal mine with you. Sui said with a nod. Forgive me for being blunt. Chairman Su, I can't see what use the non-ferrous metal mine you mentioned has. These things have existed in the signs for thousands of years, but no one has discovered their use, so no one has ever mined them. I don't think that you and your new flyer will be able to discover their use. Before iron was extracted from ores by humans and made into various ironware, the elves ruled the continent for so long, but didn't they also not discover the use of iron? Sui asked back with a smile. But now I know that these non-ferrous metal ores are very good and aren't inferior to iron at all. Moreover, I know how to use them. Then Joseph Marquis, are you willing to let the Foucault Chamber of Commerce cooperate with our new flyer to mine these non-ferrous metal ores together? Joseph Marquis took another sip of wine and thought for a bit before saying, Chairman Su, now that you've reminded me of the use of the non-ferrous metal ores, with the Foucault Chamber of Commerce's strength, They can mine these non-ferrous metal ores themselves. If your new flyer wants to use them in the future, you can just buy them. Since it's like this, why should we cooperate with you? Because in this world, only I know the use of these non-ferrous metal ores, Sui said, full of confidence. Joseph Marquis was silent for a bit before shaking his head. Chairman Su, you think too highly of yourself. Before iron was discovered by humans, no one knew the use it could have. But after some research, humans have fully discovered the use of iron. Then even without you, I can still find people to research the use of these non-ferrous metal ores. You're saying, fully discovered the use of iron? Su-yi revealed a smile with a trace of contempt. I'm afraid that's not the case. If it's like this, then how did our new flyer make those special alloys? Joseph Marquis' expression changed a bit. He looked at Su-yi for a bit before suddenly saying in a deep voice, Chairman Su, I've heard that you're cooperating with the army headquarters to build an arsenal, specially using magic machines to make armors and weapons? This matter naturally couldn't be hidden from a large noble like Joseph Marquis, so Su-yi honestly nodded in acknowledgement. Then do you know that because of the establishment of this munitions factory, our Joel family lost a large order from the military? Marquis Joel asked again. Hearing Joseph Marquis' dissatisfied and warning question, Su-yi's heart relaxed. This was because he knew that since Joseph Marquis took the initiative to change the topic, it meant that he was a bit moved by his proposal. Sir Marquis, since the army headquarters has discovered that large amounts of armors and weapons can be made through the production magic machines, it is necessary to choose an arsenal in the city. Actually, using blacksmiths to make armors and weapons, not only is the cost high, the efficiency is also very low. I think that even if it is you should have already discovered the drawbacks of this, right? Of course I know. Marquis Joel snorted softly. Joseph gave a soft snort, but this order was lost because of your new flyer. Aren't you planning on giving me an explanation? Hearing this, Su-yi's heart calmed down. Sir Marquis, I took the initiative to look for you today to give you an explanation. Chapter 261. Su-yi and Joseph Marquis' conversation lasted for half an hour before it ended. In a banquet like this with so many people talking, it was impossible for the two of them to have a deep conversation. But through this conversation, Su-yi had fully expressed his attitude to Joseph Marquis. That was that new flyer wasn't planning on going against the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce, because strictly speaking, there wasn't any conflict in the areas they worked in, rather there were many areas where they could cooperate. For example, in Banta City, because the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce had stolen an iron mine from New Flyer, the relationship between Chairman Morgan and Su-yi had fallen to a freezing point. But after a series of cooperation, although Chairman Morgan didn't become friends with Su-yi, their relationship had returned to normal. For an important person like Joseph Marquis, a small company's chairman like Su-yi naturally didn't have any conflicts with him. For him, the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce, or rather the Joel family's benefits, were the most important thing. Su-yi had mentioned the large benefits of mining non-ferrous metal veins, which was equal to giving the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce a new path. The Joel family had controlled the iron mines in the Lampari Kingdom since it was founded. Although they had large and stable income, they had always been limited by this and hadn't had any large breakthroughs. The iron mines in the kingdom would be cleared one day, and when that time came, where would the Joel family go? Now that Su-yi had expressed his willingness to mine the non-ferrous metal veins with the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce, as well as buying large amounts of non-ferrous metal from the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce, this was equal to giving the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce a new source of income. Not to mention the fact that the Joel family admired Su-yi, even if he hated Su-yi to the extreme, for the benefits of the Joel family, he still chose to extend an olive branch to Su-yi, expressing his initial willingness to cooperate. As for the matter of the orders from the army, Sui said that pig iron's use was limited. Smelting iron into steel with special properties would create even more value, so the old blacksmiths were about to be eliminated. He advised the Joel family to give up on this model. As for how to adapt after giving up on this model, Sui proposed that they could establish a steel mill with the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce, specializing in producing special steel for the army's equipment and armor. Like this, the Joel family could maintain a close relationship with the army, while also successfully transforming into the modern military industry that Sui mentioned. It had to be said, Joseph Marquis was already 47 years old, but his thinking wasn't as rigid as most middle-aged people. Rather, he easily understood many of the new concepts that Sui proposed and accepted some of them. The discussion between the two sides went very smoothly. When Sui and Joseph Marquis parted, Joseph Marquis even took the initiative to invite Sui to his family as a guest. Sui thought of the situation when he met Vincent before and he agreed with a smile. After watching Marquis Joel leave, Sui turned and saw that there was a pair of eyes looking at him from the crowd in the distance. Looking in the direction of the gaze, he saw Duke Stagg in the middle of a group of people. Seeing Sui look over, Duke Stagg gave Sui a smile before turning his head, clearly showing his rejection. Sui gave a shrug. He thought that even if Duke Stagg took the initiative to talk to him, he wouldn't be willing to talk to him. The current Sui was no longer a rookie who didn't know anything about the politics of the Lampari kingdom. With the scattered tips of many people and the information he gathered, as well as the situation gradually becoming clearer, Sui was very clear that the competition for the throne in the Lampari kingdom had reached a clear stage. The king's eldest son, which was His Highness Eric, should be the first in line to inherit the throne, so he was the one with the most hope of becoming the next king. However, His Highness Eric didn't live up to expectations, never showing any ability to govern the country and had a bad personality, so the king was very disappointed in him. On the contrary, although Her Highness Seveni was the king's youngest daughter and was a woman, she had shown great talent in politics since she was young, so she was loved by many nobles and ministers. Now the competition for the throne was mainly between the two of them. His Highness Eric had the advantage of being the first in line and had the support of many large nobles. Her Highness Seveni had a good reputation and excellent abilities, so she also received the support of many nobles and citizens of the kingdom. Adding in the fact that the people of the Signs didn't have any prejudice against the queen because of the traditions of the elves, Her Highness Seveni's voice was even louder than His Highness Eric's. The reason why Viscount Leslie and Baron Belil, who replaced him, had such a strange attitude towards Sui was because the Stagg family had gradually shown their support for His Highness Eric over the past year. Naturally, the Stagg family had to draw a clear line with Sui, who was close to Her Highness Seveni. If it was said that Sui wanted to climb up the Stagg family tree through Viscount Leslie before, now he couldn't do anything and couldn't show any signs of being close to the Stagg family. In everyone's eyes, Sui and the new flyer were already on Her Highness' side. So although Duke Stagg was a bit interested in Sui, he wouldn't take the initiative to talk to him, and Sui wouldn't take the initiative to look for him. After rearranging these relationships in his mind, Sui couldn't help giving a sigh. Although he knew that business could never completely break away from politics, he still felt that it was very troublesome to be involved in politics. "Hey, Chairman Su, why are you sighing? Could it be that you weren't happy talking to Joseph Marquis?" There was a familiar voice that suddenly came from beside him. Sui turned to look at Anklo, who was also holding a cup of dark red wine. He shook his head with a smile. "No, I just suddenly thought of something and felt a bit emotional. Mr. Anklo, I'm actually very curious, why did you come to this banquet today?" Anklo smiled as he clinked glasses with Sui. After drinking half a cup of wine, he said, "Actually, I didn't plan on coming, but I heard that Chairman Su would also be attending this banquet, so I asked my duchy's Lord Envoy to help me sneak into this banquet. My goal was to meet you, Chairman Su. Su-yi was a bit surprised. Is it that hard to meet me? Didn't Hannes already tell you where I live? If you wanted to see me, why didn't you come to my place to find me? I did, but you weren't there at the time. The manager there told me that Chairman Su has been very busy during this time and rarely stays at your place, so I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to find you, so I just snuck into this banquet. Look, didn't I smoothly find you? Sui laughed. All right, Mr. Anklo, since you spent this much effort to find me, you must have something important to discuss with me, right? Is it related to the matter we talked about last time? That's right. When it came to business, Anklo's face became serious. Chairman Su, I want to ask you, have you considered the matter I talked to you about last time? If you agree, I hope that you can arrange a visit to our Principality of Constantine as soon as possible. Su-yi thought for a bit before saying, although before the banquet, I've already confirmed that His Majesty doesn't have any objections to our company selling the agricultural magic machines to the Kingdom of Ruhr and investing in your Constantine factory. This matter is not a small matter, so I hope that you can give me some time to consider it. Anklo shook his head. Although I want to give you some time to consider, Chairman Su, our Principality of Constantine's situation is a bit special. Other than winter, the weather is very unstable in the other seasons. If you go for an inspection after this winter, you might be affected by the climate at any time. Even if you decide to invest, it will be greatly affected because of this. If that was the case, they might end up wasting an entire year's worth of time. The people of our duchy can't wait any longer. Seeing Anklo's serious expression, Su-yi couldn't help asking, Mr. Anklo, there is a problem that I don't understand. Why are you so certain that our new flyer can help your Principality of Constantine? Why don't you sell the mines to other companies? I think that as long as there are benefits, any company would be willing to invest in your duchy, right? No, the other companies are different. We've tried the same thing in the past, but those merchants were all scared away. Anklo said. Su-yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Then how are you certain that I won't be scared away? I've said it, your new flyer is different from the other companies. Actually, when I inspected Banta City before, I saw the influence your new flyer had on Banta City and the surrounding cities. I feel that if your new flyer enters our Principality of Constantine, perhaps you can change the situation of our duchy. Anklo said in an honest voice. Sui couldn't help shaking his head. I have to say, you think too highly of our new flyer. Accurately speaking, I don't think highly of your new flyer, rather I think highly of you. Anklo looked at Su-yi with eyes filled with desire. Chairman Su, I represent Duke Stantine to extend a sincere invitation to you. I hope that you can take a trip to our Principality of Constantine. Seeing Anklo's sincere expression, Su-yi was silent for a bit before slowly nodding. All right, I want to take a trip to the Black Rice Wasteland after returning to Banta City. I'll also take a trip to your Principality of Constantine when the time comes. It's a promise. It's a promise. Chapter 262. Halfway through the banquet, Su-yi was led by a servant of the royal palace to a private meeting with the king in a secret room. Compared to the first time, when the king saw Su-yi, the smile on his face was even brighter and more sincere. Just like how he praised Su-yi at the banquet, the reason why the Lampari kingdom had such a large harvest this year was because of the agricultural magic machines from the new flyer. The biggest contributor was of course Su-yi, who had invented the agricultural magic machines. For the Lampari kingdom, or for any other country in the signs, solving the problem of food and clothing for their citizens was the most important thing. The Lampari kingdom had many problems with this before, but now with the help of the agricultural magic machines, in just a single year, they had perfectly solved this problem. According to the evaluation of the Agriculture Department, if they continued to promote the agricultural magic machines, allowing every piece of land in the kingdom to use them, the Lampari Kingdom would not only be able to satisfy their own grain needs, they would even have extra grain to sell to other countries. After learning of this great news, how could the king not reveal a sincere and bright smile to Sui? The Agriculture Department thinks that the grain can be exported to other countries? Sui was a bit surprised. Your Majesty, please forgive me for being rude, but I feel that this decision is a bit lacking in consideration, right? What do you mean lacking in consideration? The king looked at Sui with an interested look. First, the reason why our kingdom had such a large harvest this year, other than with the help of the agricultural magic machines, increasing the amount of farmland that can be cultivated, another important reason is that there weren't any natural disasters this year, so there wasn't a decrease in production. But this is a problem that has to be considered. If I remember correctly, the turmoil from over 10 years ago was caused by a famine. Sui didn't keep talking. The famine that happened more than 10 years ago in the Lampari Kingdom had become a taboo topic for almost everyone in the kingdom. No one was willing to mention it easily. The king had inherited the throne during the famine, so he must have a deeper impression of the famine than anyone else. His Majesty didn't seem to care. He nodded and said, "Yes, this is indeed a problem that we need to pay attention to. But of course, the Agriculture Department will take this factor into consideration. Tell me, is there anything else that needs to be considered?" Also, the Agriculture Department feels that this year's bountiful harvest is not only enough to satisfy the needs of the people in the kingdom, but there's even enough surplus for export. But I think this is based on the previous demand for food in the kingdom. Actually, based on what I've observed in Banta City and the surrounding cities, there are many families, especially those normal farmer families where most people can't fill their stomach. I think the Agriculture Department may have underestimated these people's demand for food. Are you saying that because you didn't have enough to eat in the past, once you find that there is more food to eat than before, you will eat as much as you can? Perhaps your appetite will become several times more than before? The king asked. That's what I mean. Seeing Sui nod, the king broke out in laughter. Ha ha, I can understand your thoughts. When there was a famine in the past, even I was hungry for a few days. Later on, when we had enough food to eat, I really let loose and ate for a long time. As a result, I gained a few dozen pounds. Look. The king patted his round belly and said in a self-deprecating voice, "This is what I gained over 10 years ago. I still haven't lost any weight." Sui couldn't help smiling, thinking that the king was quite humorous. The king patted the armrest of his chair and gave a nod before praising. "Not bad. I summoned you to praise you alone and was planning to ask if you needed any other rewards. I never thought that after chatting with you, I would find that you have quite the insight into the kingdom's administrative plans. Not bad, not bad. I've heard Count Samo's report that you're still in charge of the Banta City renovation project, right?" Sui was surprised before quickly replying with a nod. "Yes. Sir Count Samo gave this task to me, but the renovation project has just begun, so I haven't seen any results yet. Being able to make Count Sean have the idea of changing Banta City is already a very large achievement," the king said with a faint smile. The king said with a smile, "Sui, I have to say, since Banta City has your new flyer, there have been many changes compared to before. At the very least, isn't it much richer than before? Otherwise, how could they think of renovating it?" Sui couldn't help smiling. "Sir Count Samo has always been complaining about being poor in front of me. I won't hide it from you, the City Lord Manor still owes our company several 100,000 gold coins. Let him continue to owe me." The king waved his hand, looking unconcerned. The king waved his hand. "Actually, even if it was me, I would also like to owe your company several 100,000 or even several million gold coins." Sui was surprised. Your Majesty, our company isn't that rich. The king revealed a faint smile. No need to be nervous, of course this is a joke. I've just found that there are happy changes in Banta City, and I can't help thinking how good it would be if the entire Lampari kingdom could become as prosperous as Banta City. Seeing the emotional look on the king's face, Su-yi suddenly had an idea. Your Majesty, it isn't realistic to turn the kingdom into Banta City in the short term, but can you consider choosing an area in the kingdom to make it prosperous? Choose an area to flourish first? The king frowned. The king knit his brows. What does that mean? What should I do? To put it simply, it's to create a special economic zone. Hashtag. After leaving the royal palace, Su-yi sat in the horse carriage heading back to his yard. When the horse carriage started moving, he couldn't help laughing to himself. There was no other way, as long as he thought of what he had just said to the king, he really wanted to laugh. To talk about a special economic zone in front of the king of a half-slave and half-feudal society, it really was a bit funny. But the king seriously listened to Su-yi's description. As for Su-yi's idea of creating a special economic zone around Banta City, after the king thought about it, he gave his initial approval. He even took the initiative to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of creating a special economic zone with Su-yi. The advantage was that they could gather manpower, resources, and policies, allowing Banta City and the surrounding cities to quickly develop. Even if this area didn't have the help of the special economic zone, with the lead of the new flyer, it was already much more prosperous compared to before. It could be considered a spontaneous special economic zone. If they had the kingdom's policies, it would develop even faster. The disadvantage was that this decision would cause dissatisfaction in other parts of the kingdom, especially the territories of the large nobles. Why did they have to choose Banta City and the surrounding cities to establish a special economic zone and not choose other places? Did Banta City have a special advantage over other places? Su-yi wanted to say that it was because Banta City had the new flyer, which was the biggest advantage, but he couldn't say this. Moreover, even if he said this, no one would be convinced. So his final proposal to the king was rather cautious. He only proposed the concept of a special economic zone, but he didn't plan on letting the king tell everyone that he wanted to create a special economic zone around Banta City. To put it bluntly, Su-yi wanted the king to take care of the area around Banta City. He wanted to give some policies in certain areas to make it easier for Banta City and the surrounding cities to develop. The king agreed to this proposal and said that he would seriously consider it. So Su-yi's meeting with the king had a result that he was very satisfied with. However, when he was about to leave, His Majesty suddenly patted him on the shoulder and said something that made him very wary. The king had said, "Very good, Seveni has such a good helper, I'm much more assured." These words really were thought-provoking. When the horse carriage stopped at the door, Su-yi still couldn't figure out the true meaning behind the king's words. Seeing Steele come out, he could only give up thinking for now. He put these words in his heart and came forward with a smile. "Allery is awake," Steele said. "Oh? Then let's go take a look." Su-yi and Steele quickly walked to Allery's room. When they came to the door, they heard a weak voice from inside the room. Bella, don't be like this, it's not good. To let people see." Then, Bella's slightly shrill voice rang out. "Humph, what's not good about it? I'm taking care of a patient. Come, open your mouth, don't be shy like a girl." Hearing the sound of a spoon hitting a bowl, Su-yi stopped. He pointed at the room and looked at Steele with a questioning gaze. Still pursed her lips to reveal a secret smile with a bit of lust. She put her index finger to her lips to make a shushing gesture before quietly approaching the door with Su-yi, poking her head in to look inside. The situation in the room was as Su-yi thought. Allery's back was covered in a blanket and pillow as he laid on the bed. Bella was sitting on the side of the bed with a bowl of black liquid that he didn't know if it was soup or medicine. She was using a spoon to feed Allery. Seeing Allery's face turn red as he prepared to swallow the spoon, Sue suddenly gave a cough. He walked in and revealed a surprised expression as he loudly said, "Bella, didn't you say you fell in love with me yesterday? Could it be that your heart has changed in just a single day?" Bella's hand trembled in shock and she almost threw the spoon away. Seeing Steele and Sue come in through the door, the two of them were very embarrassed. Chapter 263. In the next 2 days, Sue wasn't idle at all. After a few days of discussion, he came to Anvil City this time and actually confirmed a few new cooperation projects in one go, as well as a few cooperation intentions. In the past 2 days, he had been meeting with these people non-stop to finalize various details. For example, the 60,000 agricultural magic machines the Kingdom of Ruhr ordered. The most important problem was which side would be responsible for transporting them. Although Banta City was in the southwest of the Lampari Kingdom and wasn't far from the border between the Kingdom of Ruhr and the Lampari Kingdom, if they really followed Newman's plan to transport them to the Kingdom of Ruhr's capital, Caracas City, it would be over 700 kilometers. If it were to be transported by any party, the transportation cost would be a huge figure. But it was a good thing that Newman insisted on delivering the agricultural magic machines at the border, so after both sides discussed this, they decided that New Flyer would be responsible for transporting them in the Lampari Kingdom and wouldn't be responsible after delivering them. As for the transportation costs, of course they would be responsible for their own part. There was no doubt that this was more beneficial for New Flyer, because it was less than 200 kilometers from Banta City to the border. Compared to this, the transportation costs weren't that exaggerated. Not to mention that from this order, New Flyer could earn over 3 million gold coins. Although the transportation costs weren't low, it wasn't considered much. The other important matter was his discussion with Joseph Marquis. Sue chose a night to visit Joseph Marquis Manor. After talking with Joseph Marquis for several hours, they finalized the steps of their cooperation. First, New Flyer and the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce would build a steel mill near an iron mine that belonged to the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce near Kramer City. This steel mill would be used to refine the special steel needed to make armors and weapons for the Army headquarters, so naturally the raw materials would be mined from the iron mine. As for the steel-making technology, Sue would send the relevant technicians to guide them. Then New Flyer would guide the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce in mining the non-ferrous metal veins in the Lampari Kingdom. As for the non-ferrous metal ores, New Flyer would temporarily buy them at the price of iron ores. Of course, Sue wouldn't hand over the technology for the non-ferrous metal ores for now. Finally, New Flyer would further cooperate with the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce, increasing their research and manufacturing of mining magic machines. The Fulcao Chamber of Commerce would give priority to the iron ores needed by the Xinfei Chamber of Commerce and guarantee the lowest price on the market. It should be said that this cooperation was a win-win situation for both sides. Even the Joel family gained more benefit. So after having a deep talk with Sue, Marquis Joel put down his prejudice against Sue and showed a very warm attitude towards Sue. Because of this attitude, there was a very interesting interlude. When Sue said goodbye to Joseph Marquis, he met Vincent, who was coming back from outside. When he saw Sue, he taunted him with a few words. But when Joseph Marquis, who came out with him, heard this, he flew into a rage and fiercely scolded him. He even asked him to apologize to Sue. Seeing the surprised and unconvinced look on Vincent's face, but having no choice but to lower his head and apologize to him, even if Sue didn't care about this fellow before, he still felt a bit of joy because of this. Of course, compared to the dejected Ank Aaron who stood in front of him 2 days later, the joy that Vincent gave Sue was much less. Looking at Ankh Aaron, who still had a bruise on the corner of his mouth, Sue smiled. He reached out his hand to stop the surrounding researchers from the Academy of Magic who wanted to rush up and make a move. He asked Ankh Aaron, "Young Master Aaron, is there anything I can help you with?" Ankh Aaron glanced at Sue. There was still a trace of hatred in his eyes, but it was more of a deep helplessness. There was even a trace of expectation and hope. Glancing at the restless researchers, Ankh Aaron raised the bag in his hand that seemed to be a gift. He forced a smile and asked, "Chairman Sue, may I ask where Allery is? I'm here to visit." At this point, Ankh Aaron hesitated for a moment. After thinking for a while, he clenched his teeth and revealed a determined expression, "I'm here to apologize to him." Hearing this, apart from Sue and Steele, the surrounding researchers were all stunned. Today, because the Sorcerers Guild's certification exam had ended, they originally planned to have a good day of fun before leaving Anvilmar City. Therefore, they came here to visit the injured Allery, but they didn't expect Ankh Aaron to suddenly come here. What they didn't expect was that Ankh Aaron would take the initiative to apologize to Allery. Especially the researchers who participated in the low-level magician exam with Allery, their faces were filled with disbelief. At the exam site, after Ankh Aaron injured Allery, they still clearly remembered his arrogant face. This fellow relied on his father's position as the president of the Sorcerers Guild. He was simply arrogant to the extreme. Why would he suddenly come here to apologize? Bella couldn't help but say, "I don't think you're here to apologize. You're here to see if he was beaten to death by you." The surrounding researchers chimed in. This Ankh Aaron left a very bad impression on them. Of course, they didn't believe that he was here to sincerely apologize. Ankh Aaron raised his eyebrows. Just as he was about to get angry, he suddenly saw Sue staring at him with a smile that wasn't a smile. He immediately felt guilty and forcefully suppressed his anger. In a deep voice he said, "I'm here to apologize. Chairman Sue, please bring me to see Allery." Sue smiled and nodded. He gestured for him to go ahead. "Follow me." Seeing Ankh Aaron obediently follow Sue to Allery's room, the group of researchers looked at each other in dismay. Could it be that this fellow is really here to apologize? A researcher asked. It can't be. This fellow was so arrogant that day. It's not like you didn't see it. Do you think he's someone who would apologize? A researcher asked. That's hard to say. Why do I feel that? He seems to be very afraid of the chairman. Maybe it's because the president has something on him that he's forced to apologize today? Another researcher said. Now that you mention it, I also noticed it. Ever since this guy saw the president, he had become very uncomfortable. He clearly wanted to get angry but couldn't. It's really strange. Yeah, maybe that's the case, the group of people whispered as they followed Sue and Ankh Aaron to Allery's room. Under everyone's astonished gazes, Ankh Aaron actually honestly placed the gift at Allery's bedside. Then, he solemnly apologized to Allery. All of his actions were meticulous and didn't seem perfunctory at all. The researchers couldn't find any fault with his actions. Naturally, they didn't suspect that he was really here to apologize. The researchers couldn't help but look at Sue. According to Bella, the chairman had promised him that he would definitely seek justice for Allery. They didn't expect the chairman to seriously injure Ankh Aaron. Now that they could make this arrogant and despotic fellow lower his head and apologize to Allery, they already felt very relieved. Moreover, looking at Allery's appearance, he seemed to feel very relieved at the same time. A very happy smile appeared on his face. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, Sue smiled and pointed at Allery. "Alright, you guys accompany Allery for a while. I still have some things to say to young Master Aaron." Seeing Ankh Aaron and Sue leave the room, it was obvious that they were going to have a secret conversation. Everyone was even more certain. The reason why Ankh Aaron had such a huge change in attitude was definitely because the chairman had done something. On the other side, after Aaron followed Sue-yi into a small room in the courtyard, he immediately pulled his face and stared straight at Sue-yi. His eyes shot out boundless anger as he gritted his teeth and said, "Chairman Su, you really have guts. You actually dared to set such a trap for me. If my father finds out, do you know what the consequences will be?" Sue-yi remained unmoved. He maintained his smile and asked, "The question is, dear young Master Aaron, if President Aaron finds out that you've been addicted to gambling for a long time and even owe over 10,000 gold coins, what do you think? What consequences will there be?" Aaron couldn't help but shiver. He knew very well that if his father found out about this, even if he had his mother's protection, he wouldn't really do anything to him. However, he was sure that his future life would definitely become dark and he wouldn't be able to be as free as he was before. Moreover, because he owed so much money from gambling, no matter how much his mother cherished him, she would definitely be strict with him in the future. Just thinking about how he might face this kind of life made Aaron feel extremely terrified. If it wasn't for this, why would he lower his arrogant head and take the initiative to apologize to Allery? Thinking of this, Aaron secretly sighed in his heart and helplessly said, "All right, Chairman Su, I won't pursue the matter of you setting a trap for me. But now that I've already apologized according to your request, you should give me the promissory note for 10,000 gold coins, right?" Sue-yi lightly shook his head. "Young Master Aaron, you shouldn't be so naive as to think that your apology is worth 10,000 gold coins, right?" Aaron was stunned for a moment before becoming furious. "Do you want to go back on your word? Urget told me everything. If you didn't let him seduce me, how could I owe so much gambling debt? It's already good that I'm not arguing with you about this, but you still dare to act shamelessly? Do you believe that if you really make me angry, I won't care about anything and will really tell father about this matter? Then go, I don't care." Sue-yi shrugged his shoulders with an indifferent expression. Aaron angrily snorted and turned to walk out the door. But after taking 2 steps, he abruptly stopped. After being silent for a bit, he turned around and looked at Sue-yi with a complicated expression. In the time it took to take 2 steps, he had already thought that he didn't have any evidence that Sue-yi had harmed him. He couldn't even prove that Urget had deliberately set a trap for him, because from beginning to end, Urget had not said any enticing words to him. It was completely because he couldn't take the stimulation and took the initiative to ask Urget to borrow money. But he never thought that once this matter was opened, it would be like a flood that couldn't be stopped. In just over 2 days, he actually owed more than 10,000 gold coins in one go. Although he could easily deduce that this was a trap from Urget's description of Sue-yi's request, how could he tell father about this matter? Tell father that he was addicted to gambling, so he owed over 10,000 gold coins? It was already good enough that father didn't break his legs. Moreover, in that instant, Aaron had thought of something that made him feel even more helpless. That was that even if he could prove that this was a trap set by Sue-yi and tell father about it, even if father was the chairman of the Sorcerers' Guild, he would still be unable to do anything to Sue-yi. The current Sue-yi was no longer the unknown chairman of the new flyer from last year. Thinking of this, Aaron's heart suddenly filled with regret. If only he hadn't provoked Sue-yi the first time he saw him last year. After being silent for a while, Aaron suddenly sighed and said with a helpless expression, "All right, Chairman Su, tell me what you want to do. I don't believe that a chairman of a large company like you would care about a mere 10,000 gold coins, so you must want me to do something for you. Tell me, what should I do?" Sui looked at Aaron with surprise and then smiled. "Very good, I like talking to smart people. Actually, young Master Aaron, what I want you to do is very simple." Chapter 264. 3 days later, when Sui left Anvilmar City, He had a detailed list of all magi of rank 6 and above who were registered in the Sorcerer's Guild. Sui had wanted to get his hands on this list for a long time and had even made a request to President Palms Aaron. However, President Aaron had rejected his request on the grounds of protecting the privacy of the magi registered in the Sorcerer's Guild. The list he had now was one that Aaron had copied down from the Sorcerer's Guild's information room. Strictly speaking, Sui had suffered a loss by using an IOU worth 10,000 gold coins to exchange for this list. This was why Aaron had readily agreed to Sui's request, because he felt that even if Sui got his hands on this list, he wouldn't be able to do anything and there wouldn't be any problems. However, to Sui, this list was very important. New Flyer's future development required a large number of magi to join, especially those of higher ranks. Since great magi were out of the question, Sui's goal was to recruit magi of rank 6 and above. With this information, he could use the personal situations of these high-grade magicians to invite the magicians that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce needed the most right now. The list stated that there were less than 500 magi of rank 6 and above registered in the Lampari Kingdom's Sorcerer's Guild, including Sui. Compared to the 10,000 magi registered in the Sorcerer's Guild, this undoubtedly showed that the world of magi was more like a pyramid. Sui's attention was mainly focused on those magi who were proficient in a certain type of magic, especially those who were proficient in wind magic. Currently, New Flyer's research was mostly based on wind magic, and only a small part involved the other 3 types of magic. But according to Sui's development plan, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's research not only needed large amounts of wind magic, they also needed the other 3 types of magic. Even if the researchers of the Academy of Magic had decent magic power and were already used to studying magic machines, just relying on these researchers was far from being able to satisfy Sui's requirements. With this list, he wanted to recruit more magicians into the Academy of Magic with rich conditions. As for how to do this, he could only slowly study it when he returned to Banta City. Thinking of Aaron's sigh of relief when he gave this list to him and received the IOU, Sui couldn't help revealing a faint smile. This fellow thought that everything would be fine if he received the IOU. He really was too naive. Chairman Su, do you also think that my suggestion is feasible? Newman, sitting in the horse carriage, saw Sui suddenly revealed a smile, thinking that he agreed to what he had just said. Oh, of course it's feasible. Sui quickly nodded. Building a road from Banta City to the border between our 2 countries will be very helpful in strengthening the connection between Banta City and your Kingdom of Ruhr. When the road connecting Banta City and Anvilmar City is finished, it will strengthen the connection between our 2 countries and strengthen the alliance between our 2 countries. Newman said with a laugh, Chairman Su is right. The road is just too convenient. As long as the road is finished, it will take less than 2 days to go from Anvilmar City to the border between our 2 countries. Compared to before, it would take 4 or 5 days. It is much more convenient. But Chairman Su, just building a road on your side isn't enough to completely improve it. Our Kingdom of Ruhr also needs to build a road, don't you think? Your Kingdom of Ruhr also wants to build a road? Sui narrowed his eyes as he looked at Newman. This fellow had been beating around the bush for a while, and he was finally talking about the main topic. This morning, when Sui's group left Anvilmar City with the New Flyers group, Newman, Anklo, and Hannes had appeared out of nowhere, saying that they wanted to hitch a ride with Sui to Banta City. Hannes said that he wanted to go to Banta City to see if there were any changes in Banta City in the past few months. Anklo and Newman's reason was that they were going back to the Principality of Constantine and the Kingdom of Ruhr, so they wanted to go with Sui to Banta City before returning to their countries. If they wanted to set off from Anvilmar City, whether it was going back to the Principality of Constantine or the Kingdom of Ruhr, they would have to take a detour through Banta City. So it was clear that these 2 fellows had something to discuss with Sui. As expected, once they got in the horse carriage, Newman began chatting with Su Yi, finally revealing his goal. Hearing Su Yi's question, Newman said with a smile, "Of course. When I came to Anvil Mars City this time, I personally experienced the benefits of the road. I believe that as long as one has eyes and a brain, they will be able to see the benefits of the road. Since it's like this, our Kingdom of Ruhr is naturally planning on building our own road. Since you understand the roads, you should know that the one in charge of building the roads isn't our new flyer, but rather the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. Why did you look for me and not the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce?" Su Yi asked in a confused voice. Newman spread his hands and helplessly said, "I looked for them before. But the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's chairman said that their company's work is too heavy, so they don't have time to come to our Kingdom of Ruhr to help build roads." Yes, Chairman Cruz is right. Just based on what I know, their company has close to 10 roads with a total of over 1,000 kilometers of roads that need to be built. With their company's current construction team, they don't have the manpower to go to your Kingdom of Ruhr. Su Yi nodded. "That's why I came with you, Chairman Su. I want to ask Chairman Su to come with me to see Chairman Cruz and plead with him. I heard that Chairman Su and Chairman Cruz have a very good relationship. I think that if Chairman Su is willing to come forward, Chairman Cruz will give you some face," Newman said. Su Yi laughed involuntarily. "I'm afraid that's not right. Even if Chairman Cruz and I have a good relationship, we don't have enough manpower. I can't make it appear for him. We have plenty of people in the Kingdom of Ruhr. That's not a problem. The problem is the technology and the construction materials needed to build road." Newman smiled. "Chairman Cruz has already promised me that he can teach us the basic road construction technology. But, in terms of construction materials, especially the most important cement, it depends on Chairman Su." When Su Yi heard the word cement, he suddenly realized. Newman took a big detour and even dragged Chairman Cruz into this. In fact, his main purpose was to ask him to provide them with the cement manufacturing technology. Looking at Newman's hopeful face, Su Yi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He was certain that the demand for the cement manufacturing technology was not only from Newman, but also from Chairman Cruz's wishes. He could understand Chairman Cruz's wishes. After all, no one wanted their company's most important technology to be completely controlled by another company. But Su Yi still couldn't help but sigh. The businessmen in the signs were limited by the level of technology, especially the limitations of transportation methods, so their vision and knowledge were still somewhat narrow. On Earth, there had never been a construction company that had to master the cement manufacturing technology at the same time. Because it was completely unnecessary. If they wanted cement, they could just buy it. Why bother to produce it themselves? Of course, currently, there was only one cement factory in the signs, which was New Flyer. It was normal for Chairman Cruz to be worried about this situation. However, Su Yi thought for a while and replied, "Okay, I support the idea of the Kingdom of Ruhr building their own roads. But our New Flyer and the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce have an agreement that all the cement produced will be provided to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce first. If you can convince Chairman Cruz to sell it to you, I have no objections." Hearing this answer, a trace of disappointment flashed in Newman's eyes. He thought for a while and directly asked, "It's too troublesome to buy cement from New Flyer and ship it back to the Kingdom of Ruhr. I'm afraid we won't be willing to accept the shipping cost. Since that's the case, Chairman Su, why don't you just sell the cement manufacturing technology to us? It's a good thing for both of us, what do you think?" Su Yi was silent for a while and didn't express his opinion. Anklo, who had been silent, suddenly said, "Chairman Su, I welcome your New Flyer to invest in a cement factory in the Principality of Constantine. We also need to build roads in the Principality of Constantine, but we definitely can't afford the manufacturing technology, nor do we need to buy it. As long as your company can build a cement factory in our principality, it's fine as long as you can produce cement locally for use. Newman frowned slightly and glanced at Anklo with a trace of hatred in his eyes. If this guy didn't speak, he could continue to persuade Sui. But now that Anklo proposed such a solution, how could he say that he wanted to buy the technology? But thinking about it, he suddenly thought that as long as the Frestek Chamber of Commerce invested in a factory in his country, this factory would be under his country's jurisdiction. It would be easy to obtain anything from this factory. With that thought in mind, Newman's disdain toward Anklo turned into admiration. This rough-skinned fellow who looked like a farmer might look honest, but in fact, he was very good at scheming. Compared to selling the technology directly, Sui would be more willing to agree with Anklo's proposal. But to Newman's surprise, Sui pondered for a moment and nodded with a smile. Okay, it's indeed more convenient to sell the cement manufacturing technology to you. But how much are you willing to pay, Chairman Newman? Newman and Anklo didn't expect Sui to agree to their request so easily. For a moment, both of them were stunned. Chapter 265. Sir Chairman, you. Kennard frowned as he looked at Sui. After a while, he shook his head and sighed. When I was in contact with the other chairman of the Chamber of Commerce in the city, I often heard people say that you are a prodigal. At first, I didn't know why they would say that about you, but now, I can only say that they are right. Sui smiled as if he didn't care about this evaluation. It can't be considered a prodigal. This time, in order to obtain the cement production technology, the Kingdom of Ruhr has to pay a total of 500,000 gold coins. Moreover, they have to agree to give a tariff discount to any Chamber of Commerce that sells our new flyer to their country. Calculating it like this, I think it is very profitable. But Sir Chairman, according to last month's financial statistics provided by Manager Seabass, the cement factory provided the Chamber of Commerce with a huge profit of 70,000 gold coins. Even if we can get 500,000 gold coins from selling the technology, we will lose the Kingdom of Ruhr's market. I'm afraid the loss is more than 500,000 gold coins. Do you think this is worth it? Kennard asked with a pained expression. 500,000 gold coins? No, your estimation is too low. If the Kingdom of Ruhr learned from our Lampari Kingdom and began to build roads, then the amount of cement used would be astronomical. In the end, the cost would exceed 10 million gold coins. Sui said. Then why did you agree to sell them the technology? Kennard couldn't help but ask. Kennard, you haven't worked with me for long enough, so you don't understand my intentions. Sui sighed. If Heinz was here, he would definitely scold me for being a prodigal, but he would definitely be able to understand my current thoughts. Kennard shook his head. Of course I don't understand you as well as Vice Chairman Heinz. Moreover, I really don't understand your thoughts. Do you still remember what I said to you before you decided to join our Chamber of Commerce as General Manager? Sui asked. Kennard thought for a moment. Do you mean fly into space? More or less. Sui nodded. I think you should be well aware of how distant and unrealistic my dream is. But in order to achieve this goal, I have to speed up the process. So if you carefully study what I've done since the establishment of New Flyer, you'll find that I've never been particularly concerned about monopolizing the technology. I've often taken the initiative to sell it or even give it away for free. Yes, that's what I don't understand. Kennard nodded honestly. If we had kept all the technology that the company had sold, I'm sure that our company's profits would have increased more steadily and for a longer time. But it will take longer, Sui said. Of course I know that as a normal trading company, I should maintain a certain rhythm. However, if I maintain this rhythm, I will never be able to realize my dreams in this lifetime. So I have to take the initiative to promote this process and speed up the development of the magic machine industry on the continent. But what does this have to do with your decision to sell the cement production technology to the Kingdom of Ruhr? Kennard asked. Sui smiled and pointed at the flat road not far away. The main problem that restricts the development of the continent is actually the transportation. The road can greatly improve this problem. So even if Newman didn't make this request, I already planned to sell the cement production technology so that cement factories can be built everywhere in the Lampari Kingdom. This will speed up the construction of roads in the kingdom. Kennard, tomorrow you'll host a press conference and announce the news of our new flyer selling the cement production technology. Seeing that Sui had made his decision, Kennard could only nod in agreement. Seeing that Kennard still had a bit of confusion on his face, Sui patted his shoulder with a smile and said, Kennard, as the general manager under me, you have to straighten your chest and keep looking forward. Before reaching our goal, you have to throw away all unrelated thoughts, understand? Kennard revealed a bitter smile. But Sir Chairman, the steps you're taking are too big, I'm afraid I can't catch up. #####. The day after Sui returned to Banta City, Kennard held a press conference according to his orders. At the press conference, Kennard announced that he would be selling the cement production technology, creating another stir. When they received this news, countless companies from Banta City and the surrounding cities came to inquire about the price of this technology. Even if the high price of 500,000 scared off most of the companies, there were still 2 companies that wanted to buy it. Like this, including the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, just in Banta City and the surrounding cities, there were 3 companies that wanted to buy this technology. New Flyer received 1.5 million gold coins as a transfer fee. This was just the beginning. A week later, the other companies in the Lampari Kingdom also received this news, and they all came. In the end, there were 8 companies that bought the cement production technology from New Flyer. In total, just in the Lampuri Kingdom, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had earned 5,500,000 gold coins from selling this technology. Adding in the 500,000 from the Kingdom of Ruhr, New Flyer received a terrifying profit of 6 million gold coins from selling this technology. Seeing this terrifying profit, Kennard's opposition to Sui's decision instantly disappeared. It was like Sui said, the cement production technology wasn't a high-level technology. Actually, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had been using it for a long time and had already figured out a part of it. Even if New Flyer didn't sell it, it wouldn't take long for the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to develop this technology and stop relying on New Flyer. Instead of being passive when the time came, it was better to take the initiative to sell it now and earn a large profit. Sui's decision had an immediate effect. In less than half a month after the cement production technology was sold, there were several large and small cement factories that appeared in Banta City and the surrounding cities. 3 of them were naturally built by the 3 companies that bought the technology. As for the others, Sui was too lazy to care about how these cement factories appeared because he had more important things to do. Camby, be careful. Don't touch it with your hands, this thing has electricity, be careful you don't get electrocuted. Sui loudly shouted to stop Camby from using his hands to move the generator. What's there to be afraid of when there's electricity? Camby swung his arm nonchalantly. Camby shrugged. When I was fighting with a human magician 100 years ago, I was struck by that human magician's lightning magic several times, but nothing happened to me. I don't believe that this little thing can be more powerful than high-level magic. Camby didn't care about Sui stopping him after saying this and reached out to touch the high-speed generator. CI. A bone-chilling electric current crackle resounded. Everyone could only watch as Camby's entire body emitted strands of light blue electric sparks. His short and stout body trembled incessantly, a comical yet horrifying sight to behold. Sui immediately made his decision and quickly stopped the generator from running. Then he circulated his magic and expelled all the electricity from Cambi's body. However, even if Sui's reaction was fast enough, Cambi's electricity still wasn't light. Although dwarves were naturally strong and their magic resistance was strong enough, so Cambi wasn't injured this time. However, the electricity had burned his clothes to charcoal and even his brown hair was burnt, standing up in a funny way, just like a broom. When everyone saw Cambi's current appearance, they couldn't help laughing at the same time. Especially the other dwarves of the Magic Machine Workshop, who were laughing while pointing at Cambi, almost rolling on the ground. After Cambi stayed for a while, he finally gave a strong shudder. He looked at the generator that had stopped with a bit of fear and said to Sui in a surprised voice, "Chairman, isn't this thing too strong? I feel that it's even stronger than the 7th grade lightning magic of you human magicians." Sui rolled his eyes at him. Nonsense, 7th grade lightning magic normally doesn't even have 400 volts. Don't look at how small this generator is, it's at least 1,000 volts, so of course it's stronger. You didn't listen to my warning, do you feel good now? Kanbai stroked the hair on his head and chuckled mischievously. Then, he asked, "Chairman, what do you mean by voltages and volts? This is a bit troublesome to explain. When I have time, I'll write a book on the basics of electricity for you to read and you'll understand when the time comes. Right now, let's see how the generator is running. It should have been running for over an hour, right? If there aren't any problems, it should be considered a success," Sui said. Seeing the dwarves carefully approach the generator and after confirming that it wasn't releasing electricity, they began to inspect the structure of the generator. Sui found this a bit funny in his heart. These dwarves relied on their thick skin and didn't listen to him when he warned them several times about the dangers of electricity. Now that Cambi had been taught a lesson, when they faced the generator again, their sense of safety should be much higher. Compared to the small wind generator that Sui used at the magician certification exam that wasn't even the size of his palm, this generator that Sui and the dwarves had researched after returning to Banta City was already as wide as Cambi's waist. It looked like a large lump on the ground. But compared to the generators of the power stations on Earth, this could only be considered a small generator. Moreover, it still used a wind magic array to generate electricity. Compared to the power, the biggest problem with this generator was the material of the coil. Because the Lampari Kingdom had very strict control over copper, Sui couldn't obtain large amounts of copper from the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce to make the coil, so he could only use aluminum as a substitute. However, even if it was aluminum, it was still a rare item in the signs. The aluminum that Sui used to make this generator was something that he had obtained from the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce with great difficulty. Moreover, the aluminum used to make this generator wasn't refined well and the quality of the coil wasn't good, so this generator could only run for an hour before it malfunctioned. In just 3 days of experiments, several sets of aluminum coils had been wasted. It seemed like all the aluminum that Sui had worked hard to obtain would be used up. Thinking of this, Sui could only shake his head. It seemed like even for the generator experiment, the problem of the materials had to be solved first. If he wanted to carry out further experiments, he could only wait for the non-ferrous metal mines to be mined, obtaining large amounts of aluminum and even copper. As for using electricity in all of Banta City, making this city like Sui had imagined, becoming a city without night like the cities on Earth, it could only exist in his imagination right now. The dwarves were busy around the generator, but Sui was looking out the window in the direction of the Black Rice Wasteland. Thinking of mining the Valar tribe's non-ferrous metal mines, he had to take a trip to the Black Rice Wasteland. Thinking of the Black Rice Wasteland, he also thought of the Principality of Constantine that bordered the Black Rice Wasteland. That fellow Anklo was still waiting in Banta City, so when should he leave? Chapter 266. It was December. The cold wind from the north became even colder. No matter how energetic the young researchers of the Academy of Magic were normally, they had no choice but to stay in their labs in this kind of weather. They wouldn't rush out to cause trouble like they normally did. Evita's physique wasn't considered good, so she was more afraid of the cold than normal people. At this time, she would close all the doors and windows of the lab, not letting a single bit of cold wind in. Feeling the warm air coming from the magic air conditioner, Evita rubbed her hands out of habit. She couldn't help feeling grateful to Sue-E in her heart. If it wasn't for Sue-E developing the variable temperature magic air conditioner and installing 1 or 2 magic air conditioners in every lab of the Academy of Magic before winter, Evita would have to endure the cold like before. Although she could use the fireplace to keep warm, this would cause the air in the room to be very bad, so Evita hated doing this. Of course, there was another method that was more convenient and wouldn't affect the air, which was to lay down a large-scale flame array. However, this array cost at least 100 gold coins, and it cost over 30 gold coins to maintain it each month. Even if Sue-E was generous, he wouldn't be able to set it up in every lab. But thinking about it, Evita wasn't too certain. According to her understanding of Sue-E, he was a chairman that placed importance on his subordinate. Back in Anvilmar City, because of Alary's matter, he had shown this point. If it was the chairman of another company, it would be good enough to give Alary a bit of money. But Sue-E had actually made Aaron personally apologize to Alary. All the researchers were stunned at that time because they were clear on Aaron's identity and knew how arrogant of a person he was. Sue-E being able to make him lower his head and apologize in front of all these people really exceeded everyone's expectations. Because of this matter, Sue-Ye's image in the minds of the researchers became even higher. In the hearts of many researchers, he had even become an idol. However, Evita's view was different from many people. The first thing that came to her mind was that Sue-E must have paid a great price to achieve this. If she were Alary, she would definitely ask Sue-E not to do this for her, because she didn't want Sue-E to pay a price that he wasn't willing to pay. However, under the circumstances at that time, she naturally couldn't say these words out loud. She could only silently bury them in her heart. However, feeling the warmth from the magic air conditioner, Evita thought of Sue-E and had a question in her heart. Actually, why would I think that? Just as Evita's thoughts were getting closer to the real answer that she wasn't willing to admit, there were a few knocks on the door. Evita stared blankly for a moment before waking up from her daze. Thinking of the strange thoughts in her mind, she couldn't help but blush. After calming herself down, she went to open the door that she had locked from the inside. The door opened and a visitor that was out of Evita's expectations appeared outside. "Steele? Why are you here?" Evita moved aside and invited Steele, who was tightly wrapped up, into the room. "I was bored and remembered that I hadn't reported here in a while, so I came to take a look." Steele took the hot tea from Evita and after carefully taking a sip, he let out a long sigh. "This damn weather, it really is cold to death." Evita revealed a smile and sat down in front of Steele. "You were already fired by me, it doesn't matter if you don't report." Steele was surprised before reaching out to pinch Evita's nose and saying with a smile, "All right, Evita, you're so prestigious now that you're the chief, right? You actually dare fire me? Do you believe that I won't have Sue-E fire you as the chief?" Evita gave a soft snort. "Then go and tell him, see if he's willing to fire me." When she said this, the two of them were surprised. Steele looked at Evita for a while and couldn't help saying, "I found that you've been led astray by Akali and Bella, you both like to make fun of Sue-E." Evita's face was slightly red, she pretended to drink tea and lowered her head, saying in a low voice, "Bella shouldn't do that now, but Akali." Hearing the regret in Evita's voice, Steele was surprised. His expression was a bit complicated. He was silent for a while before sighing. "Actually, I can see it. But I can't just give Sue-E to her, right?" Evita quickly raised her head and shook her head. No, that's not what I meant. Steele, you and Sue-E like each other, this is a very lucky thing, you have to cherish it and not let it go easily. Even if Akali is our good friend, it's better to be a bit selfish in this matter. Steele gave a soft laugh. She looked at the gloomy sky outside the window and suddenly sighed. It's a pity that even if I don't want to let go, I'm worried that I won't be able to hold on. Evita was surprised and asked in surprise, what is it? Could it be that there is a problem between you and Sue-E? Weren't you guys fine a while ago? No, there's no problem right now. It's just that. Steele's brows knitted, looking a bit troubled. It's just that I suddenly feel that he doesn't seem to care about me that much. Evita knitted her brows and asked, why would you suddenly think that? Did something really happen? Steele seemed to have lost her usual dazzling brilliance, even her confidence seemed to have faded away. Hearing Evita's question, she took a sip of tea and thought for a while before slowly saying, Evita, there's something I haven't told you. Actually, when I went to Anvil Mars City this time, I met Vincent. Evita was surprised. When did you meet him? Where did you meet him? Does Sue-E know about it? He was beside me at the time. Steele nodded. Did he have any reaction? Was he angry? Evita asked worriedly. Steele gave a bitter laugh. It's because he wasn't angry that I'm worried. After seeing Vincent, not only was he not angry at all, he didn't even seem to care at all. He clearly knows that I liked Vincent before. I thought that after seeing Vincent, he would be a bit jealous and have a special reaction. But he didn't react at all. After saying this, Steele showed a pained expression. She bent down and buried her head in Evita's lap, saying softly, Evita, I feel like he doesn't care about me at all. He doesn't really like me. Otherwise, why wouldn't he have any reaction after seeing Vincent? Evita reached out to stroke Steele's bright golden hair and said with a faint smile, How do you think he would react? With my understanding of Sue-E, I feel like he just doesn't put Vincent in his eyes. Don't you feel that Vincent isn't on the same level as him? Do you think an elephant would look straight at an ant? Steele suddenly raised her head and glared at Evita. If Vincent is an ant, then I who liked him before is also an ant? Evita couldn't help laughing as she pinched Steele's face. Even if you're an ant, you're still a beautiful ant. Steele said with a sigh, but no matter how beautiful an ant is, it won't be cared about by an elephant. Evita couldn't help shaking her head. It seems like our Lampuri Royal Academy's most beautiful and confident Steele, once she starts to fall in love, she will lose her confidence. That's right, I really don't have confidence right now. Steele honestly nodded. If he really cares about me, why doesn't he care about Vincent at all? If he really likes me, why hasn't he proposed to me yet? Evita couldn't help rolling her eyes at Steele. Hey, I remember that you were the one who told Sue-E that you hadn't thought it through yet, so you weren't planning on getting married for now? Now you're blaming him for not proposing to you? I just didn't want to agree to him that easily at first. But how could I have thought that he wouldn't mention the proposal at all? Evita, do you think he isn't planning on marrying me now? Evita couldn't take it anymore as she knocked Steele's head. You said everything yourself and now you're blaming Sue-E. Do you believe that if he finds out, he won't want you anymore? Who made the rule that a man has to propose to a woman? If you really like him and want to be with him, why don't you tell him what you think? How do I tell him? Steele asked in a daze. Evita helplessly shook her head. With my understanding of him, I feel that it isn't that he doesn't like you or doesn't care about you, but he's a bit slow when it comes to these things. So I feel that if you want to tell him something, you should just tell him. For example, you can tell him that you think he doesn't care about you because he doesn't care about Vincent. Or you can tell him that you've thought it through and can be with him forever. Steele's face turned slightly red. How can I say this out loud? Evita said angrily. It's your luck that you met such a good man like Sue. If you don't want to hold on to him, then let go and let me go." Steele was stunned. Evita also realized that she had misspoken and coughed awkwardly. She forced herself to be calm and changed the topic. "Tell me, Steele, what step are you two at now?" Steele was still in a daze. "What step?" "Of course." Evita's face also turned slightly red. "It's that." Steele finally understood what Evita meant. Her face turned even redder as she shyly lowered her head. "We only kissed and didn't do anything else." "It seems like that's the problem." Evita thought about it and said, "Steele, you've been together for over half a year, right?" It's been so long and you've only stopped at kissing. If I was Sue, I might think that you don't care about him. Since you don't care about him, then it's not strange that he has this attitude towards you." Evita analyzed. Steele immediately became nervous. "Then what do I do?" "It's very simple, just do as I said and tell him clearly what you think." Evita said seriously. "Believe me, Sue is very slow in this area. Otherwise, I'm sure that he would have countless beautiful girls around him and wouldn't be so loyal to you." Steele thought about it for a while before slowly nodding. "All right, I understand. Then do you know what you should do?" "I will think about it." "It's not thinking about it." Evita's expression became very serious. "You have to do it. Otherwise, you should really let go. And then you do it." Steele asked out of curiosity. Evita was silent for a while before replying seriously, "If you're willing, I'm willing as well." Steele looked at Evita in shock. Evita didn't seem like she was willing to admit defeat and didn't move her gaze away. For a while, the room became abnormally quiet. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.